Welcome, everyone, to the Out of the Groove pre-race show leading into tonight's Monday Night Racing event. All right, I think we're back figuring things out. Yes, apologies for the technical difficulties. I know we were working on a few different things right before we went live. So now hopefully should be all good. Yes, things much clearer on my end now. So that is good. Better to have it now than late in the race, in the closing laps at least. That's always better. But welcome, everyone. Don't know how much you heard, how much you didn't hear. This is Monday Night Racing Season 5. The playoffs are here, and they're actually winding to a wild and thrilling conclusion. This is the semifinal race, the final race of the round of 7, so to speak. The championship next week will be actually held in person. I'll have more information on that here before too long. But as I was saying before, internet rudely interrupted me. I was welcoming many of you guys to the stream. Bill said he was vibing to the music. Yeah, we can gladly bring the music back. It's probably way more interesting than me, way more stimulating, I would say, than anything I have to say. But good to see you guys. Cito, good to see you again. Jackson, good to see you. Saw a few other names earlier, and I'm not able to scroll to go check them out. Dylan, Adam. I like to give name shout outs. A lot of these names I recognize from the last 5 weeks, so it's great to see you guys back. Last week it was Indy cars at Auto Club. This week we're going back to stock cars, next gen cars at Old Atlanta, a blend of the new, the modern, the current, and the old. Many fans have loved the pack racing that modern, current, new Atlanta has generated this year for the Real Cup cars. We're going back to the old slick, abrasive, worn-out Atlanta Motor Speedway surface that many drivers and fans came to know and love for the longest time. So before we get too far into this, I want to look at the points grid. For those of you who are just joining us, there are still 4 spots up for grabs. Those championship 4 will compete next week. Right now, though, Presley Sora is in the best points position, plus 15. James Bickford, as you can see, is plus 11. Then Anthony Alfredo, David Shieldhouse, still in strong points positions after salvaging points last weekend at Auto Club. Then you've got Adam Cabot, Ryan Vargas, and Colin Fern below the cut line. Currently, drivers like Vargas, Fern, going to be looking to make something happen tonight at Atlanta. Perhaps must-win territory. I think if you're Colin Fern, you have to think of it as such. We'll talk to Colin before the green flag here before too long. But there you have it, chat. Start to pick your favorites. Hey, I'm glad to hear that. M. Martin fan for life. Big fan of Monday Night Racing now. That's super awesome. That's great. That's good to see. At Atlanta, love that. Yeah, love New Atlanta. Well, we're going to Old Atlanta tonight. See some love for Old Atlanta in the chat as well. Good stuff. I think these next gen cars in iRacing are going to put on a good show this week. But next week, Monday night, August 29th. I was doing some math in my head. Tonight's 22nd. August 29th. The finale will actually be held in person. So if you're in the Charlotte area, be sure to check out the Carolina eSports Hub. I think we've got a pretty cool promo we can play here to kind of get you guys hyped up for the Season 5 Championship 1 week from tonight.
Anthony Alfredo to the outside. Cabot tries to block. Give the momentum to the 23. Here comes David Shieldhouse on the bottom with a huge push from Garrett Smithley. Down onto the inside of the racetrack. Cabot goes ahead. They touch going into turn 3. Still even for the championship lead.
And Adam Cabot crosses the line for the Magic Man to have his magic moment.
And going up against some of the biggest names in motorsports, how many people do you know have the chance to do that? What's that emotion like?
Yeah, I know one person. He's standing right here. So, I mean, this is absolutely insane.
Hey everybody, Kyle Busch here. Be sure to grab your tickets for the Monday Night Racing Championship Night. Grab them today.
That's right. Hope you guys are excited, or as excited as I am. That's going to be a really awesome show. Good old iRacing action, but with the added spice of real life, seeing the real drivers, the real personalities right there going to work in person. That's pretty exciting. But good to see more people showing up. I'm doing great, Gavin. Thank you for asking. Hope you're doing well. We got M. Martin fans pulling for Vargas tonight, picking Vargas to make it to the championship for. Yes, that was the Kyle Busch in that clip. That's pretty great. A lot of people speculating he's going to Colleague Racing. I had Colleague as one of my, as I think I'd had them tied for the best odds to land Kyle Busch next year. So we'll see if that comes out. It sounds like Chris Rice wants to announce something in the next couple weeks. So if we're talking about real world NASCAR, that Kyle Busch saga may be coming to a close in the next few, before too long, but we'll have to wait and see. I'm not willing to make any hard predictions on Kyle Busch or really anything to do with real world silly season this year. The way things have gone, it's bonkers. It's nuts. It's pretty crazy. But good to see so many of you guys. If you're just joining us, yes, this is iRacing. Not this, but the racing you will be seeing here in about the next 20 or 30 minutes. 7 drivers still eligible for the Season 5 Monday Night Racing Championship. Among them, real-world drivers like Anthony Alfredo, Ryan Vargas. Many are familiar with David Shieldhouse, Colin Fern, still eligible for the title. 3 will be eliminated after tonight's event at Old Atlanta Motor Speedway. I want to get the chat's opinion on this one. Do you prefer Old Atlanta? And I'm not talking about like Atlanta, but back before the reconfiguration, like decades ago. I'm talking about Atlanta, the most recent version of Atlanta, where it was still a quad oval, worn out surface and everything. Do you prefer that version of Atlanta from say 5-6 years ago, or the Atlanta we've seen this year? I want to know what you guys think in the chat. Say modern, old Atlanta. I'm curious what we're going to see in the chat. I feel like we're already seeing some split opinions on that one because we're blending them tonight. Got the next gen car, but it's the old Atlanta surface. You can't pick both. Both is cheating. Yeah, you can't sit on the fence on this one. Few for old, but a lot for new or modern. It's a mix. It's definitely a mix, but it's I think it's leaning modern. I'm surprised. I'm genuinely surprised by that. I heard nothing but positive things. People raving about Atlanta for years and years and years and years and years. How dare they consider changing it? I'm looking at the Twitch chat as well. It's funny how YouTube and Twitch slightly varied. I'm seeing more olds, fans of old Atlanta on Twitch, but I'm seeing probably more fans of modern new Atlanta on YouTube. So that's kind of interesting to see the difference right there. We'll have to turn these two loose against each other. They can do battle, debate. That'd be good stuff. Old Atlanta is fun to drive but boring to watch. Yeah, I think that's there's a point in there. Old Atlanta, Texas Super Speedway. We'll see what they do to Texas, if they do anything to Texas. Everyone's convinced they're going to make Texas into a super speedway as well. Ooh. We'll see. We'll see what they do. Atlanta, you can't deny it. New Atlanta has been pretty great this year. But I'm excited to see how the next gen iRacing cars handle on that old, worn out Atlanta. I believe the Atlanta in the sim is based on the 2008 configuration, so that's pretty interesting. So it should be good. Before we get started tonight, we are going to talk to some of our championship contenders here before too long. But as we do every week, I want you guys to kind of get to know our championship eligible drivers a little bit better. Do we have any hardcore sim racers in the chat watching right now? If you're watching this, do you remember your first ever win on the platform? Could be in something like Street Stocks, could have been something more maybe like your first win in like a league race or something. Like it could take on a number of different forms, but I wanted to ask our 7 remaining championship eligible drivers if they remember their first ever win on iRacing. And I got some very varied responses, so let's check that out. Do you remember your first iRacing win ever?
I do actually, and I think it's on my YouTube channel somewhere, the replay of that. I was streaming and it was a modified at Richmond, I think. Actually, you know what? It might have been Atlanta in a truck. So I think that was the first one outside of rookie street stocks. I don't know if that counts or not. I mean, I guess it's on there in the career statistics, so maybe it does. But there's been quite a few since then, fortunately, so it's hard to remember.
No, I can't say I remember my first ever win. I've been on iRacing since 2009. Heck, I can't even remember my most recent win. It doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, I do. It was USA Speedway with street stocks. That was my first ever official win. I don't really remember how it went. I think I probably led most of the laps in it because those races were either crash or win at that point when you're a rookie class. But yeah. I think that was the first one.
I actually don't. I could tell you what car it was in, but this was I actually started back in 2009. So I'm like an iRacing boomer, really. I remember it was definitely a Legends car. I don't remember what track, but yeah, that was I guess 12, 13 years ago now. So it's been a while. It's been a minute.
I remember my first Monday Night Racing win, but I do not remember my first iRacing win. The car and track combo was season 1. Darlington with NASCAR trucks, and it was I believe it was my first Monday Night Racing race ever too, and I won. So I showed up and won, and then I showed up again, and it was Radicals at Texas, and I somehow won that one as well. So it was like 2 off the bat, and now I'm just struggling to get it back.
Yes, so it wasn't under Colin Fern, so I was 15 at the time, so didn't have a debit card, didn't have a credit card or anything like that. And my uncle, for Christmas, birthday, or whatever it was, paid for an iRacing subscription. And it was like my 3rd race. It was back then there was no Street Stock series. It was Legends, then Street Stocks, and it worked its way up that way. So it was a Legends at Lanier, and I won it in the rookie Street Stocks, but it was under Matthew Ring because it was under my uncle's name.
Awesome stuff for sure. Seeing a few people in the chat. Full Send It. Remember first league win. It was an awesome moment. I love the username. That's pretty great. A few others. 13 years old. Starting out on sim racing. That's pretty great. Awesome to see. Love that anyone can, if you have a good enough PC, you have a set of pedals or wheels, or I know people who race on a controller. It doesn't take much to get to the chance to race against real drivers. That's one of the coolest things about iRacing is the different realms of the sport, fans, drivers, industry, who you name it, who are able to come together and compete in something like this. Pretty great stuff. Well, you heard from all the playoff drivers a little bit right there, but this week we want to focus on a driver who's just below the cut line, but who has been one of the most consistent drivers in Monday Night Racing all year long. This week's featured driver is Adam Cabot, driver of the 17.
It is time to talk to the defending champion of Monday Night Racing, Adam Cabot, winning the championship 1 season ago, looking to become the first ever to go back-to-back here in season number 5. You've really cemented your name in iRacing. A lot of people now know you around and across the sim. How exactly did you get into iRacing, and where exactly did you find this service?
I guess it all goes back to NASCAR 99, the PlayStation. I wasn't really a NASCAR fan or into racing at all, and my uncle gave me a PlayStation 1 with NASCAR 99, his old copy, and I was more interested in playing Spyro the Dragon. I didn't really give a crap about NASCAR, but apparently one day I got bored of that and was like, let me see what this is about. I still remember the first race I ever watched on TV, 2002 Watkins Glen, just flipping through the channels, and I'm like, oh wait, that's stuff that's in the video game. Like, that actually happens in real life. My grandpa he gave me a newspaper article from the New York Times about iRacing starting out and how real drivers like Dale Jr. and Brad Keselowski, whoever else was in the article, about how they were using it as a training tool. And he asked me, hey, is this something you'd be interested in? I've actually been in iRacing since 2009, so I'm kind of like one of the iRacing boomers. I don't think if it was for NASCAR gaming, I don't think I would have ever gotten into NASCAR, to be honest with you.
Do you happen to have any real-life racing experience?
Not really. The closest things I could draw to that would be I've done a couple of endurance karting races at Pocono Raceway on the infield road course. Start out doing like the little like Le Mans style run across the track, hop into the go-kart, and do pit stops and driver changes, and those races are always eventful. And then also getting to do the stock car driving experience at Pocono. I mean, that was really cool, getting to drive a stock car 150 miles an hour at Pocono.
In season number 4, at the first ever real-life sim racing event for Monday Night Racing, you win a championship to the sound of a crowd.
And Adam Cabot crosses the line for the Magic Man to have his magic moment. Adam Cabot out of Glen Gardner, New Jersey is the champion of Season 4 of the Monday Night Racing Pro Series.
What was that moment like when you crossed that start-finish line? Not just as a champion in a chair in front of a computer, but in front of a live audience. You won a championship.
Honestly, it was surreal. That whole day I kept trying to tell myself to soak everything in because, like, you know, it wasn't... I'm not someone who, even though I've iRaced for a while, I'm not someone who, like, you know, grinds the sim every day and I'm looking to be some sort of eSports champion or I have these goals set out. Like, it almost just kind of like fell into my lap, honestly, like being, you know, able to compete in this league. But yeah, that moment I'll never forget when Schildhouse and I got side by side and we're like banging doors and going for the championship. And we could hear the crowd like reacting.
Cabot with that, they touch, going into turn 3, still even for the championship lead.
That's when it hit me and my heart just started racing. I'm like, oh right, there's like a whole room full of people watching. This isn't just me like playing a video game. Like there's like a whole room full of people who are watching this. Like this is a big deal. You never know when you're gonna have or if you're ever gonna have an opportunity like that again. So I'm just like, this is crazy getting to, you know, meet a bunch of the real world drivers and, like you said, compete in front of an audience. I'm like, I don't know how the hell I ended up here, but I'm going to enjoy it.
And we are back and now joined live actually by Adam Cabot. We just got to learn a little bit more about your background. The Season 4 champion with one race to go until the Championship 4, though you find yourself just 7 points below that cut line. So, Adam, what's your approach like tonight at Atlanta?
Yeah, man, the pressure's on, that's for sure. You know, just got to really go out there and execute tonight. I'm pretty fortunate that this is like a perfect car track combo for me. But, you know, we also have a Corey Heim, who's not a playoff driver, could do in a mile and a half worn out, loose, you know, track conditions type of race. So definitely expect him to be a threat. But, you know, my approach for tonight is to, you know, kind of have the mentality that I'm in a must-win situation, even though I definitely could point my way in. But the reason for that is these guys who are in the final 7, they're there for a reason. They're all really good. So I expect them all to be pretty much running top 10 unless they run into an issue, get caught up in a wreck. So, you know, a second or third, fourth place finish might not cut it. So I'm going to go out there and do what I can to win and try to get some points updates during the race. And if a couple guys have problems, play it smart. But yeah, just got to go out there and execute. And of course, quick little sponsor plug here: Atlas Hair Products. Code M&R on their website, atlashair.com. Get 20% off, free shipping. Once again, super excited to have them on the car, and I'm really hoping that we can deliver another championship run for them and head to Charlotte next weekend.
Good stuff. I like your approach for tonight. Go for broke and see where you land at the end of the night. That's awesome. Well, it's next-gen cars at Old Atlanta, sort of a combination of the old and the new, modern, you know, a mix. So how do you feel, like how confident are you in the next-gen car at a kind of a slicker racetrack like that? Do you think that suits your driving style?
I do, but at the same time, it's really tough. You know, like you know, you're going to be sliding around just like we were in the Xfinity Series at Texas, just like we were in the truck at Vegas, where I finished first in that race and second in Texas. So, but the difference is just like real life, this car is really edgy. I mean, I've self-spun a couple times in practice here, just kind of you just get caught sleeping, you start thinking about strategy or something, and just a little bit of slip in this car and you can go around if you're not paying close attention. So definitely just need to go out there and execute, but you're gonna have to save tires tonight. That's something I'm really good at. Again, I just hope there's not someone like Corey Heim or who knows what. I mean, maybe a playoff driver also who just is really on their A game and is able to execute better, because honestly, this is kind of a car track combo I don't think many of us have a ton of experience with.
Yeah, I think it's going to be super interesting to watch. You mentioned strategy a moment there, so my last question. We've seen a couple races so far in these playoffs come down to strategy. When do you pit? Who do you pit with? You mentioned saving tires. Do you think this race is going to come down to long runs and tire strategy once again?
You know, that's a great question. Part of me does, and that's a reason why you got to save tires, because if you go 30, 40 laps, and you're not saving tires at the beginning, you're done. Like, you might not even make it to the end of the run without wrecking or blowing a tire. But at the same time, if this is going to be a race where it's a race of attrition and we only have 15, 20 lap runs, saving tire the whole race isn't going to do you much good. It's just going to kind of put you back into chaos. So that really is the question of the day. I'm not really sure exactly how I'm going to approach it in that regard, but hopefully after the first, run or two, or after the first 20, 30 laps, the race will kind of settle in and we'll get a better feel for what the strategy needs to be.
Awesome stuff. Well, we know qualifying is right around the corner. Adam, thank you for talking to us here on the pre-race show. Good luck tonight. Hope to see you in victory lane.
All right. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Awesome stuff. That is Adam Cabot, driver of the 17, one of our playoff drivers. I think we have the time to talk to one more driver in kind of in a precarious points position. I saw you tweet earlier today, Colin Fern. We're now joined by driver Colin Fern, driver of the 86. I saw you tweet today that you're kind of going for broke, it sounds like, tonight. So what's your strategy at Atlanta in this race?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a really fun car track combination. It's a lot of sliding around, and you really have to be patiently aggressive, which I feel like I'm pretty good at. But yeah, if everyone thinks I drive like a butthead already, so they're gonna see a new level of that tonight.
Maximum butt-headedness. All right, that's exciting.
That's as kind as I can put it. I can sit here and say a lot of more vulgar things, but I don't want to do that to your channel.
We appreciate you watching out for us. That respect that. I was looking at the stats actually before we got on here, and actually fans can see some of your career Monday Night Racing stats on the screen right now. But there haven't been a ton of next gen car races in Monday Night Racing's history, but you've ran a few of them, and you have one of the better average finishes of all of our playoff drivers in those races, 11.6. So does the next gen car give you any sort of confidence? We heard Adam Cabot just talk about how it's kind of an unknown, this track car combo. How do you feel about your chances coming into this race?
I freaking hate this car. I think this car is the worst thing in real life and on the video game ever. I hate driving it. It's impossible to save. You land and it skis and then it snaps loose. It is the worst car. I cannot stand it. But for some reason, I can drive it. So I'm just hoping everyone else has a few more problems with it than I do tonight.
Well, we appreciate the honesty, and we'll be watching out for you tonight. Going for broke, going for that win. Colin Fern, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, guys. Have fun.
Awesome stuff. Green flag is moments away. Drivers, I believe, beginning qualifying. But that's going to do it for the Out of the Groove pre-race show. Thank you, everyone who tuned in ahead of time. I think it's about time we toss it to our three-man booth, the folks who will be calling tonight's race. Blake McCandless, good to see you tonight, my friend.
Good to have you, Eric, and of course, good to welcome my colleagues in the broadcast booth here tonight. Kenneth Bueno and Jacob Hitz will be along the call with Eric Eastep, who, by the way, does a fantastic job on the Out of the Groove pre-race show each week. And Kenneth, Jacob, we're finally here. 2 races left in Season 5 of this Monday Night Racing Pro Series presented by Interstate Batteries. 7 drivers, only 4 spots left, and all 4 of those spots are really left, Kenneth, because we didn't get a winner in the playoffs last week. So every single spot in this playoffs are up for grabs to try and make the championship 4 next Monday night.
It's all up in the air, and that's what makes it so exciting for tonight. And every time we get a penultimate race, there's always a new thing added to this championship fight. And with the fact that basically everybody is fighting within point standings likes and not wins and checkered flags and advancements into the next round, we are certainly here for one that may completely alter our championship 4 that'll be at the Charlotte eSports Hub 1 week from tonight. But like Eric and like a couple of the drivers in the interviews are talking about, this is a combo that has not been seen before in M&R, a car that really hasn't been ran all too much, and a track that hasn't been ran in 2 seasons. So there's a lot up in the air, not only for that playoff fight, but for what we're going to see on track with those guys and with everybody else around them. I think that question mark adds for probably what's going to be a large exclamation point by the time we wave that checkered from Atlanta.
And, well, one thing, Jacob, I think that even Colin Fern was kind of alluding to, and we're at the old configuration of Atlanta. You think of slick, you think of tires wearing out, you think of cars that are hard to drive. I know Fern was just alluding to that a couple of moments ago. But when you think about tracks that really test a driver and somebody who deserves to be a part of that championship 4, I don't know if there's a more fitting venue that we've had all season long to decide who our 4 championship competitors are going to be tonight than Atlanta Motor Speedway.
It's not going to be easy for these guys, and even for somebody like Adam Cabot, who we just talked to a little bit ago, who said that, not a lot of guys have much experience with this car track combination, and he's right. So these drivers, this is a curveball for them. A lot of them, didn't know what to expect tonight. I know in talking with David Schildhouse before the race, he seemed to indicate one way, and then he did some testing, and then he realized what he thought would play out tonight isn't what's going to happen. They're going to be up on the high side, kind of that Kevin Harvick line, all the way up against that outside wall. And that's just going to make passing even more difficult because you're going to get everybody up against that outside wall. You go on the bottom, you're going to be wearing that right rear tire out. And this track abuses tires like crazy. It is like a cheese grater to the virtual and the real life Goodyear Eagles that are put on these race cars. If we need to get like Larry Mack out with the cheese grater and the tire, we will. But these guys have added sets of tires for this week. They're looking at 4 sets on pit road plus a 5th that they'll start the race on. That's up from what we normally see, about 3 on pit road and 1 on the race car. So it'll be interesting for these guys to see how that tire strategy will come in. They're looking at about maybe a 3-stop race. They're looking maybe 40 laps on a tank of fuel, depending on how far you can stretch it. If we go green, and I think there's a good chance we're going to see some green flag racing tonight, that strategy is going to be huge as far as who's saving fuel, who's not, and who's potentially saving a set of tires for the end if we get a late race caution, which could determine which guys are in and on the stage next week at the Charlotte Esports Hub.
Going to be interesting to see all of that and more play out as we'll take a look at some of our picks for tonight. We've been fairly consistent up here in the booth, but you can see it right there at the bottom of your screen. I'm going with Corey Heim, a non-playoff driver, but he has been so incredibly consistent since joining the Monday Night Racing Pro Series. Kind of midway through this season, already has a couple of wins to boot. I think he's going to get it done. You can see Kenneth Bueno right there going with your defending series champion to defend, or at least have a opportunity to defend his title next week when we go out to the Homestead Miami Speedway. Jacob Hitz with Ryan Vargas. Going to be rolling with the Rhino is Jacob Hitz and Presley Sora for Eric Estep, who's been pretty keen to picking some very well-running drivers here these last couple of weeks. So you see it right there as these drivers will qualify on. We will throw it down for pre-race ceremonies as we throw it to Lonnie Klaus with our invocation and Rebecca Kimry, who will sing our national anthem.
Let's pray. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity that we have to participate in this event today. We thank you for the privilege to live in the United States of America, one nation under God, indivisible with liberty and justice for all. We commit this event to you, and may we please you. We'll give you the thanks. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Lonnie and Rebecca, as pre-race ceremonies are wrapped up here at the Atlanta Motor Speedway as we get set for the running of the Roasted Gems Coffee 125. And there you see your front row here at the Atlanta Motor Speedway, the winner of the pole award, James Bickford, 30.913 seconds, as James Bickford will in turn take the Roasted Gems Coffee pole award. Playoff driver. We'll start alongside another playoff driver in Anthony Alfredo. Back to row number 2, a couple of other playoff contenders here tonight. David Schildhaus, the new assistant general manager for Alpha Prime Racing, and even spotted at Watkins Glen International this past weekend. We'll start at the inside of row number 2. Adam Cabot, your defending series champion, will start to his outside in the 4th position. Back to row number 3, you have Bailey Turner and Presley Sora, another driver gunning after that championship in Presley Sora. Starting in 7th tonight, a great run for that number 4 machine, and Brett Baldeck, he'll roll off in the 7th starting spot. 8th will be Nick Olson, former playoff competitor before he was eliminated in the round of 13. Garrett Smithley, who has some new news to announce tonight, he'll start at the inside of row number 5, and Robbie Lyons. Kenneth will round out your top 10.
Crypto Autosport will have control of P11 on the racetrack when we wave the green. Matt Stonick in the 41 will be in that spot. Justin Melillo with the Traction.GG Mustang, he'll be on the outside in P12. Of course, Stonick's teammate, DJ Cummings for Crypto Autosport, he is 13th. And Corey Hine, Blake, your pick, rolling off from the 14th starting position outside in row number 7. Josh Slate racks up the top 15. He has Gary Sexton for Cabot eSports to his outside in that 8th row. And a pair of playoff hopefuls in row number 9, Colin Fern in the 86. He'll have Ryan Vargas deepest out of the playoff field, 18th on the starting grid. Tonight, final 2 into the top 20 will be the JD Motor Esports teammate of Ryan Vargas and Gabe Wood, and the 55 of Will Rogers.
Starting in 21st, George Balfans Jr., former playoff contender. Ford Martin will line up on the outside. Then in 23rd, Steve Affont, Noah Lewis lining up on the outside in at 95. Devin Henry, he had a strong run last week at Auto Club Speedway. He starts on the inside in 25th. Charlie Brown on the outside in 26th. Michael Massey and Max Kennan back there in row number 14. A rough start for Kennan after he made the playoffs to start the season. Brandon Brown and Dakota Curtis rounding out our top 30. Mark Ravillis, Mike Clay, Seth Eggert, Case Kallenbach. Our tail end of the field here for the penultimate race at Atlanta. Blake?
And you see James Bickford there, his 5th Roasted Gems Coffee Pole Award of the season, as he won poles all the way back at Charlotte, Michigan, Las Vegas a little bit earlier with the trucks, and he even won it last week in the IndyCar at Las Vegas. So Bickford has really been putting together a couple of pole runs. We'll see if he can get the result that he so desires that would put him in to that battle for the championship 4. And while these drivers are sitting on the grid, why don't we go ahead and look at those standings here for you real quick before we get everything rolling to show you the exact playoff picture as they show up into Atlanta Motor Speedway tonight. There you have it. Very simple here, gang. Presley Sora in a great spot. So is Bickford. So is Alfredo. So is David Schildhaus. But Kenneth, you look beneath that cut line. You have a driver in Adam Cabot that can really do some work with a good run. But I think when you look at Ryan and Colin Fern, no doubt about it, Kenneth, you have to win to give yourself a chance.
Yeah, it's definitely true. Although Ryan Vargas was 14 points below the cut line at Nashville Super Speedway, the penultimate race of Season 4, won that one into the Championship 4 race. So certainly things are not out of the picture for Fern. Definitely must win. I think in his case, he has to go for broke, like he said on the interview. He has to go all out 150%. For Adam Cabot, it was a tumultuous Auto Club race. 7 points below the cut line going into tonight. He looked like he was going to be above that cut line going into this race at Atlanta, but of course hit the inside wall, got into a crash late in the race, so that puts him there. For everybody else though at the top, for Sora, Bickford, Alfredo, and Schildhaus, you're probably going to see a lot of defense played here from Atlanta. Guys being patient, not willing to do too much, but at the end of the day, it's a track like Atlanta, an edgy car like the Next Gen. It is going to be unbelievably unpredictable to see who will get over that hump.
Well, we alluded to it just a little bit earlier in our pre-race show, and Jacob Hitz, I know we were talking about a little bit earlier that Garrett Smithley may have some news tonight. What have you heard?
Yeah, on his stream tonight, he announced that he is going Cars Tour Pro Late Model Racing this weekend at Motor Mile in his WITS Racing number 15 Ford. Announced it on his stream, put it out on Twitter as well. So he'll be going Cars Tour Pro Late Model Racing, which is pretty cool that he announces that here tonight during M&R, at least on his stream. Want to touch up on some of the playoff guys here before we get the green flag. Talk with some folks throughout the day, kind of to gauge where their mind was coming into this cutoff race. And I asked Vargas simply, in 19 points below the cut line, are you just putting the superhero cape on like you did last year at Nashville? And he said, absolutely. So watch that number 6 starting deep in the field, or 06, I guess, is on the side of the car today. Watch that Swan Energy vehicle. I tell you what, I picked him tonight. It's starting back from 18th, not an ideal starting spot, but he still has the speed. Keep an eye on it. He finished second last time we were here in Atlanta. Also talked with David Schildhouse, and he said, look, you know, on the cut line, 7 points in, I just want to hang with Adam Cabot. He doesn't quite think that Ryan Vargas has enough to win the race and bump Schildhouse out. And as far as Colin Fern, he thinks that he's going to be maybe a little too out of control to put together a win. Schildhouse saying, as long as that 17 is with me, I should be perfectly fine and make it to the big stage next week. Blake?
Thank you very much, Jacob. Again, a lot to look for from any of these drivers. And for Ryan Vargas in particular, you got 125 laps to try and make up all that time. Is the pace truck going to dive to the safety of pit lane? Only 2 more races left in the Monday Night Racing Pro Series presented by Interstate Batteries. Who is going to be our championship for? We'll find out tonight. Green flag is in the air for 125
They are wrecking! Brett Bolduc is crashing! The field piling it up on the front straightaway. Robbie Lyons is around. Gary Sexton is around. George Belfans Jr. Ryan Vargas is spinning on the apron headed to turn number 1. Brett Bolduc spun the tires on the bottom, and 5 cars crash and spin on the front straightaway 500 feet past the start-finish line.
And again, that all originated around that number 4 Queen City News Toyota. As you can see right there on the bottom, this is how much of a challenge Atlanta can be, that just getting through the gears itself on a track that is 116 degrees Fahrenheit. Getting through the gears could be a little bit of a challenge, and you saw right there as they were transitioning off the banking. Look on board of that number 4 as he gets a little bit loose. You're going to see the impact of it to Ryan Vargas right here. Can see those cars stacking up, and Vargas not able to quite escape unscathed. You see a little bit of damage right there as he will take a tag along with the number 94 of George Belfans Jr. And not the way I'm sure that any of these drivers wanted to start that race. Lap number 1, well, we don't even see turn number 1, and we have our first caution flag of the night.
And you can tell, Blake, it went all wrong by the time he hopped on that gas pedal. A lot of guys here, especially these intermediate ovals, like to toggle between first and second gear on the initial start and the restarts that we'll definitely see over the course of tonight's 125 laps. And when you're at the top of first gear, or even in second, the revs are so high, you plan on the throttle. This car has 670 horsepower, and it's not afraid to unleash it when you go 100% to the green flag. It caught Brett Bolduc off guard, and like a lot of the guys have been talking about in real life and in sim, this car is very edgy. It's very hard to save once it gets a yaw angle in it. And by the time Bolduc was sideways, he tried to get back onto the gas to make sure the whole field didn't run him over, and then while he was doing that, went sideways and collects a good amount of the field. That's a shunt for Ryan Vargas. I think fortunately doesn't have enough damage to consider race over or consider the usage of the faster pair, but this is definitely not the start you want to have if you're Ryan Vargas, who started 18th tonight, and he's dropped 11 because of that crash. 29th when we get the green next time.
Yeah, we were just talking about how hard it's going to be from 18th. I'm sure it's not going to get any easier trying to claw back from 29th. Not only that, you have limited sets of tires, so now he gets to start out the race on some tires that you're not going to flat spot them here in iRacing, but you'd imagine that spinning and looping them around certainly not going to help at a track where tire wear is such an important factor. But man, a lot of drama here, Eric, to start this one off early.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a tough break early on for Ryan Vargas, who you knew had high hopes coming into tonight's race. Obviously far from over, but in a deep, deep hole, as you guys were just talking about. The chat, very, I don't know, into the race is the right word, but all very shook up by that early caution. These races so far in these playoffs have been fairly clean. I go back to Daytona a couple weeks ago in the ARCA cars. We expected that to be a crash fest, and it never really became such. So we'll see what happens here at Atlanta. A lot of drivers talking about the inexperience with this track and car combo. Not off to a great start on that restart. Hopefully things settle down here before too long.
And a lot going on here in the opening laps of this event here at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. The Roasted Gems Coffee 125 as Brett Baldeck, if you're just joining us, lost control of his race car at the front of the field, and most of the field able to avoid the carnage. Unfortunately, not so for playoff driver Ryan Vargas as he gets tagged on lap number 1. We also have, I guess, a bit of a not an issue here with timing and scoring, but a couple of cars. The caution came out so early that there are some cars that are trapped behind the pace car in terms of the timing and scoring, so they will be waved around, and it may take us a moment to sort that out. Sometimes it's something that can inevitably happen when you have one of those very early caution flags with the pace car and how far it is down pit lane. And of course, race control Josh Mendoza and the team going to do everything they can to try to sort this out as quickly as possible and get us rolling back under the green flag as quickly as we can. As you can see, the field starting to work their way down the front straightaway into turns 1 and 2. And again, one thing we get to talk about that is so something we're anticipating and looking forward to so much is the championship event happening live next Monday night at the Charlotte eSports Hub in Charlotte, North Carolina. The Charlotte Phoenix did a wonderful job of hosting that event last year, and we are lucky to be able to bring it back here for season 5. So if you are in the area, you're close by, of course we invite you to come out to Charlotte, North Carolina next Monday night. You can see all your favorite drivers. Your 4 championship competitors will likely be up on stage. I don't know exactly where everybody's traveling from. We have drivers from all across the country, and many of them, of course, being around the NASCAR industry, are located just in and around the Charlotte area. So many of your favorite drivers will be there competing live in front of a crowd. And as someone who was able to attend that race last year as a spectator, a great event to be able to put on. You get to meet a lot of racing names. I know there were a lot of eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series drivers that made their way out to Charlotte last year, and just so many industry folk. Kenneth, it was really fun. You can feel the energy in a way that these drivers just are not used to feeling when you're sitting in your own house sim racing.
It's an atmosphere quite like none other. And, you know, obviously it is a championship event. You do have the stakes on the line, the trophy, and all the drivers on stage and also on the side with their own rigs. But to me, it's more like a sim racing expo. Like you said, a lot of Coke Series drivers there, a lot of other motorsport people there. You know, guys like Bozy, who's working with Vassar Sullivan Racing. He made the trip out to Charlotte in season 4. And we even shook hands. You and I, Blake, we met for the first time at the Charlotte eSports Hub last season. So I think it's a great opportunity for not only people to watch a great championship event happen at Homestead Miami Speedway in sim, but to also get to know and meet a lot of great people in and around the sim racing community and the motorsports community as well. It's just a fantastic event. The Charlotte Phoenix Esports guys, I mean, they have been unbelievable in putting last season's event together. They're going to be just as good, if not better, this time around for season 5, and I'm excited. I can't wait for it.
It's so fun, and that was one thing I was saying as a spectator just coming in. It was a great social event to just come in, meet a lot of people that maybe you've known for, you know, whether it's 2 years or perhaps some even about a decade long, to finally put a name with a face and also be able to kind of see how drivers react to a little bit of pressure. I mean, when the crowd roars in person, I mean, that's an experience that even if you're a real life race car driver, there are only certain certain instances in which you can feed off that crowd, that you can hear it from the seat of the race car. In sim racing, you're right there, and you can see and feed off of that energy in a way that is truly unique to sim racing. So, of course, if you are around the area, of course, we invite you to come on out. You can look up Monday Night Racing to be able to get your tickets for that next Monday night. I'll be there. Kenneth will be there, as well as many of your favorite drivers who will be competing. And, of course, our 4 championship competitors will be on the stage competing to try and win the Bob Jenkins Trophy in front of the crowd to wrap up this incredible 5th season of the Monday Night Racing Pro Series presented by Interstate Battery. So we've sorted everything out, timing and scoring-wise. All looks good on that end. James Bickford will once again have control of the field. Let's see if we can get to turn 1 this time as we put under the green lap number 8 of this Roasted Gems Coffee 125. Green flag back in the air, and this time they get through the gears A-OK as James Bickford leads them into turn 1, and perhaps I spoke too soon.
Yeah, Justin Melillo, DJ Cummings, Matt Stallneck, Ford Martin among those involved in turn 1. Will Rogers sent it 3 wide into the first corner. Melillo and Cummings had made contact, and they chased up the banking into the outside wall. Melillo is not happy at all over the radio, and we'll take a look and see exactly how it all started. This is the launch out of the 55, that black and yellow Toyota Camry out of Space Station Gaming. And as they went 3, Cummings travels up the track into Melillo, sends Rogers into the wall, and then more drivers involved. I believe Corey Heim got a piece of that. The 27, Michael Massey, also had a huge hit on the apron of the racetrack. So just after our lap 1 front straightaway caution, it takes to turn 1 before we get trouble on lap 9.
And Jacob, I know you're astute to listening on the radio. There are some not so happy drivers right now.
Very, very angry, namely Justin Melillo, who was involved in that crash. He was ticked off that they took him 3 wide, and then Ryan Vargas said, yeah, I don't really know what happened there, talking to Justin, and Justin said, I was the wreck. I wasn't, involved in it. It started with me. Colin Fern told him that he had a little bit of room to his right there with that 3 wide. Just a judgment call, really. I don't think Justin expected to be in a 3 wide situation after we didn't make it past the start-finish line. And, this time we wind up with half a dozen or more wrecked race cars. The good news is the guys in the playoffs managed to avoid this one. Some strong cars at the back of the field, though, like Corey Heim, they did not.
It's tough right there. As I was just about to mention, perhaps a little bit of a broadcaster's curse right there. I was talking about, well, we got through the gears solid, and they did. They got up to 4th gear or maybe 5th gear by the time they got to turn number 1. But yeah, I think that was just a situation. DJ Cummings, I'm not quite sure if he knew there were 3 wide, or obviously Melillo. I think at that point everybody's just trying to get their bearings about them. It was actually Will Rogers that kind of pressed the issue up there, went to the top side 3 wide, and had plenty of room to do so, not giving fault at all to that number 55 cars. If you can get rolling on these restarts, you definitely want to take advantage, and could have had a couple of spots by the time they left turn 2, but certainly been a little bit of a struggle for these guys just to get up to speed and get this race back underway. We've seen, Kenneth, I think we've seen a lot of really clean races lately. A lot of these mile and a halves have fared very well, so I gotta say I'm a little surprised that we've had a little bit of trouble in getting going in this one, because there's been so many recent races where we've had these very long green flag runs.
Yeah, I'm surprised as well, but I think it tailors to just cold tires on these next-gen cars. They're very different from a lot of the other ones we've ran at these sort of very hot track 10, very abrasive mile and a half surfaces. I know Las Vegas has a lot of grip, but still has some bumps, still can rattle you around. We use the truck there. That truck doesn't have a lot of power, has a good amount of downforce behind it. The Xfinity car, more power, less downforce, but not as edgy, not as unpredictable as these NASCAR Next Gen Cup Series cars when we raced them over at the Legacy Texas Motor Speedway. So the different car may be the reason why we've had a shaky opening 11 laps, but I mean, I don't have a doubt in my mind that if we can get into a rhythm, we may end up in that same trend like a Las Vegas, like a Legacy Texas, where we step into maybe a 10-15 lap run and guys just start to click off lap after lap after lap, worry about strategy, and then we start to get some of that organic racing that we've been used to seeing over the course of the playoffs.
And it's just a matter of getting everything under control. This field will really spread out. These cars are very demanding. This track is very demanding, so you'd think that the drivers that are very comfortable will very quickly showcase themselves and be able to pull away and make some ground on the rest of the field. But obviously when you have all these restarts, everybody's on top of each other, you're on cold tires, it's slick, all those things kind of combine and can sometimes make it difficult just to get a lap or two under your belt. But once we get there, once we get 3 or 4 laps in, I think rest assured that we'll be A-okay to continue on rolling here. As you see, the lights are off on the pace truck this time, so we will go back under the green flag here. It will be lap number 13 as we try to just get our first set of corners out here without any issues. You can see a lot of your playoff drivers have settled themselves out at the front of the field. James Bickford, Anthony Alfredo, David Schildhouse, Adam Cabot, your top 4, all championship competitors, some in different situations than others, but all in a very good position right now, at least where they stand, to help their situation when it comes to advancing to that championship 4 next Monday night. So the pace truck will dive down to pit lane. We'll try it once again to get things rolling and squared away in these next-gen cars at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Pace truck is off. Bickford and Alfredo, your top 2. Looks like a clean launch so far. Green flag back out. We'll see if we can make it fully around as they work to turn number 1.
We'll head into turn 1, and for the first time, have a side-by-side battle for second. There goes David Schildhouse to the inside of Anthony Alfredo. They remain door-to-door, and it's all on James Bickford looking to run away. And here comes Bailey Turner, that Terry Labonte throwback on the very bottom. He's going to look under Schildhouse for 3rd, but here comes Alfredo, a huge charge, entering turn 3, gets him even with your race leader out of turn 4.
I saw Anthony Alfredo in the midst of practice really like to run that middle line in turns 3 and 4. We'll see if that line will be a benefit to him throughout this race. As you can see, Bickford electing at the moment to go all the way down to the bottom of the track. Alfredo will try to run the middle in 1 and 2. Not quite as much luck, but Alfredo hanging on right now to your top runner in James Bickford.
And we're going to see that a lot, not only in the rest of this Atlanta race, Blake, but when we go to Homestead Miami Speedway 1 week from tonight with the NASCAR trucks, we are going to see multiple lanes being used. Drivers wanting to go to the very bottom, drivers maybe electing to use the middle, and then those guys who are just brave enough to tuck against that outside safer barrier as you ride on board with Ryan Vargas, who's electing for more of a middle group here, trying to pick his way through the field. Remember, the 2 incidents to start the race kind of set him back. He fell to 29th. He's working on Season 3 champion Robbie Lyons in the 2, so he has worked up nicely throughout your top 10, top 15. In fact, he is the last driver in the top 10 right now, so already some points being made up. But here comes Anthony Alfredo with a point to make against his fellow playoff competitor, James Bickford, not yet able to make the move back to turn 1.
One driver make their way onto pit road. It is Joshua Slade. After the restart was under review, he was found in violation of the restart, and he may have accidentally nicked the cone on the entry to pit road as well. So we'll see what Josh Slade can do. He was running back in about the 29th position when he came down. And yes, indeed, he did hit that entry cone, so that may be double duty there for him. Not a great start for that 0-1 car. As you can see up front, Alfredo slowly, patiently trying to find a flaw in James Bickford. Will elect this time to run right behind him. You can see how much he has to check up in the dirty air. And meanwhile, Schildhouse electing to take it up top for that 3rd spot. He's been running the high side at both ends of the racetrack.
Yeah, Schildhouse has been experimenting quite a bit. It seems to work right now, but again, like a lot of drivers, maybe including Schildhouse, they want to be as careful as they can be, even with the lines they're choosing. Because again, this track temp, very hot, over 100 degrees. These tires wear off very easily at a surface that can easily punish you if you take things the wrong path, and you need a lot of discipline. So I think Schildhouse not really pushing the issue right now, as we're almost 3 wide. In fact, we were for a quick second, and we will be out of turn 2 for a moment. That's Garrett Smithley in his Wits Racing number 15 on the very bottom. Ryan Vargas trying to scoop by on the top, and Nick Olson on the backside of this into the top 10.
And again, that is the paint scheme that Garrett Smithley will be running this weekend at Motor Mile Speedway in the Solid Rock Carrier Cars Tour Pro Late Model Series. So very cool. You see a lot of what's so great about Monday Night Racing is for these drivers to tie in both their real careers and the virtual world. For people that are in the industry alike, and Smithley both on his stream, you can find him at twitch.tv/Garrett Smithley. He is streaming. You can watch the onboard of his race, but also very cool that these drivers get an opportunity to bring their partners in for these type of races and tie them into their virtual racing as well, give them some exposure on the virtual end of things as well. So really nice bow in there for Garrett Smithley, being able to bring a partner along for the Cars Tour and carry them right here into Monday Night Racing as well.
Yeah, certainly awesome to see a lot of the partnerships being made, outside of the sim racing world, but then get brought in. It's a nice chance for, obviously, the sponsor to get some more eyes on them with their driver, using the sponsor in the series and across other leagues that may be broadcasted that they also run in. So it's nice to see that Garrett Smithley continues to develop these partnerships, and as he runs behind the 55, we'll see if he can pick some more spots up. But here's a potential pivotal pass around the playoff picture. You see Presley Soar to the inside of Bailey Turner, and that's going to be an extra gain point for the playoff points leader going into tonight. But this pass potentially around 7th. Ryan Vargas, Adam Cabot, they were going at it for position. Cabot seems to be in a free fall here as Nick Olsen moves to the inside in turn 3. So Vargas trying to pick in on the cars below the cut line, but he'll get loose, and here comes Cabot back for the action out of turn 4.
Oh, and Ryan Vargas, a big slip up there off the corner as Vargas falls on back. And Jacob, I know there's a lot going on all over the racetrack. There's even been a couple of wrecks that nearly happened in the midst of this run.
Yeah, Lapigo coming off turn number 2. Dakota Curtis got a little loose coming off turn number 2, was able to save it, cut down in front of Brandon Brown, and that 12 machine got a little hairy coming off turn number 2, but they've been able to figure it out so far. No Leighton Sabile tonight, so he's not going to be wrecking every lap coming off corners like we've seen the last couple mile and a halves. I'm sure he'd find a way here.
I was able to see him at Richmond Raceway a couple weeks ago. Nice to put a name with the face there with Leighton Sabile, who the last time we were at Legacy, Texas, was hanging that car out. I cannot believe that he didn't crash with how loose he was in that machine. But up front, change for the second position. David Schildhaus finds his way by Anthony Alfredo as they wreck in the back of the field. Caution is out for the 3rd time tonight, and you can see right there spinning at the bottom of turns 3 and 4. I believe that is Devin Henry, who is rolling on in the bottom. The car that is to a stop is Noah Lewis. His caution flag out for the 3rd time in the Roasted Gems Coffee 125.
And we'll see here, this is the 95 rocking the Rusty's colors, the Lightning McQueen. There was also a hit to the inside wall. Charlie Brown got loose out of turn 2, chased it down and slammed the inside safer barrier, but of course the caution not thrown for the 58. In fact, thrown for the 95, who goes for the spin at the banking in turn 3. You watch the look from the 58, and then as the 95 careens down the track, here comes Devin Henry in the 77. He has nowhere to go, trying to slow up for it, and slams into the 95. Of course, a 3-car incident here, but 2 cars in the main picture as you ride on board with the Ford Mustang. There's a look at Charlie Brown hitting the inside wall, and then in just a couple of moments, he'll have a look at that 95. There's the smoke. Here comes Devin Henry trying to predict, but at the last second, Noah Lewis comes down the track. So unfortunate for the 77 and the 95 there.
There's the wreck, Jacob. Most everybody making their way down to pit road.
Couple of guys staying out, though. DJ Cummings looks like he'll stay out, as will George Bell Fans Jr. and Max Cannon. Meanwhile, on pit road, it is a very busy place. Everybody taking 4 tires and fuel. Looks like Anthony Alfredo. No, that's David Schildhaus. I'm sorry. Schildhaus wins the race off pit road. James Bickford spun the tires in that pole position box. A clean exit for David Schildhaus. He's out of the gate. He will win the race off pit road. That is huge. I know when I talked with Schildhaus before, he said track position was going to be critical. 4 tires and fuel all the way around. Put that 20 out in front.
Well, and he had just improved his track position a little bit earlier, went from 3rd to 2nd just when we had that yellow flag flying. So he'll improve it one more spot, at least as far as drivers that elected to come down pit road. I don't know how many we'll see that actually stay out. We had a few that did so, but we anticipate that many of them will come down to pit road this time. Devin Henry, Michael Massey, Steve Affont all elect to come down pit road, but not everybody is a taker. You see a few cars at the front of the field right here. DJ Cummings will stay at the front. George Belfans Jr., Max Kinnon. Brett Baldock was hoping to get a wave around, but looks like we'll be unable to do so. So it looks like 3 cars will stay out on the racetrack and try to keep this one rolling along with those old tires. Going to have to, I think we're going to see just how much these tires matter with how well these 3 can kind of hang on in the midst of this next green flag run. And of course, running the Roasted Gems Coffee 125 at Roasted Gems Coffee. It is premium coffee. You can find our online store where you will find bold, rich, and unique coffee beans roasted per order and delivered fresh straight to your door, in your mug, and at peak flavor. Enough of old coffee beans. Enjoy your precious coffee gems fresh at roastedgems.com today. And by the way, we want to talk about partnerships that go from real to virtual. You can find some Roasted Gems coffee and perhaps even use my promo code Underdog Fantasy. There you see a tie-in right there, as I think this time around is shameless plug. Although I didn't say the promo code, I'll go just short of that. But Eric, a lot of drivers up front here electing not to come down pit road. I can only imagine what this restart is going to look like with some drivers on nearly 30 lap old tires.
Yeah, fraught with peril. I'll be really curious. David Shieldhouse, first off pit road, had a blistering fast pit stop, was hoping that would result in some clean air, maybe stay ahead of the chaos. Unfortunately, now he might be the bulldozer trying to get through those slower cars in front of him. But a varied pit strategy. See, the Atlanta I grew up with, the only strategy was 4 laps and fuel, or 4 tires and fuel every pit stop. So we'll see how this works out. I'm not keeping my hopes up.
I'm not either, Eric, if I'm being honest with you. I don't know. I'm sure they're just hoping. Again, they started with 5 sets of Goodyear Eagles, so perhaps hoping that maybe they run 10 laps or so, and then they can come down with a caution to have the fresh tires on the back end of this run. But it's going to be tough for Cummings, Belfans, and Kinnon to try to keep up here on these old tires. You also have to mention that none of these 3 are playoff contenders, so your championship 4 of them all directly behind them and trying to make those spots up. So we'll see how the restart goes for these drivers. Old tires, cold tires. Let's see how it goes as the green flag is out. Cummings able to get away pretty nicely right there, as Kinnon, a very slow launch on the inside line, is going to stack them up pretty bad, and he is going to get swallowed up by the rest of the field. As you can see up front, Anthony Alfredo, Shieldhouse down to the bottom, and they will rocket away from those drivers on those old tires.
This is exactly going as expected. Adam Cabot, though, getting stuffed behind the 94, George Balfans Jr., so he may lose some more time and some positions in the midst of the pack. There's a look at that black and red Atlas Hair Products, number 17 in the middle, 3 wide, now trying to pick up his positions back outside on the 51 of Corey Heim. He makes the pass complete, but here comes a pass inside for the lead. Alfredo under Shieldhouse.
Your top 2 side by side. David Shieldhouse electing to go all the way up against the outside retaining wall. Alfredo taking the Harvick line around. Here's trouble out of turn number 2.
It's Corey Heim, I believe, around. No, Will Rogers in the 55 to 41 of Stallneck going sideways. And there's the Space Station Gaming Toyota Camry stalled on the apron as the field goes by. Now we'll pick the revs back up, but we'll see what happened. Of course, Rogers in the middle of that. DJ Cummings was one of the ones who stayed out, and they were about 4 wide coming out of turn 2. Rogers, bit of a contact with the 10 as he came down out of the outside wall, and a scary moment, Blake, for Ryan Vargas in the 6. He was on the bottom end of this situation, fortunately got by. Everyone else gets away, mostly unscathed. The 41 with a beautiful job to keep that 41 Camaro straight and not hit the outside wall. Here's a look from Vargas. There goes Rogers to the inside. Cummings trying to get as much as he can and try to be as safe as possible, but ultimately tags the 55, and the caution waves again at lap 30.
Well, Jacob, before that restart, David Schildhouse was saying, we are definitely going to wreck on this restart. He may have been a lap late, but he wasn't entirely wrong.
Yeah, when he looked up and realized he had 3 guys on ancient tires that stayed out, he said probably about half a lap, maybe 3/4 a lap before we got back to green. Yeah, we're going to wreck. He was darn close, and I know it's not horseshoes and hand grenades, but I think close enough works here. You get 1 lap in, and they about wrecked before that, trying to get by that lap traffic. One guy had almost crippled was Adam Cabot. He was stuck on that outside line behind George Belfans Jr., behind DJ Cummings, and was just scrapping to get by him. He eventually did, and it was contact further on back in the field that wound up sweeping up Will Rogers. He'll come onto pit road, as well as about maybe 9-10 other cars. That's Matt Stolnick on pit road. DJ Cummings is in, Steve Affont, Devin Henry, Rogers, as I mentioned, Mark Rabilla, Seth Eggert, Case Kallenbach, all on pit road under this green flag stop, or under this caution flag stop. One thing I do want to mention, though, is the fact that first pit stop for mostly everybody, including all the playoff guys with the exception of Vargas, that's their first stop. That's about halfway through the fuel run with the caution laps in there and everything. That gets them about halfway on a fuel run. You're looking anywhere around about 40 laps on fuel. So with that, you take lap 25. We've had 1 caution now. We're looking at around maybe lap 65 or so, right around the halfway point for the potential for green flag stops. Obviously, if we keep wrecking at the pace that we have, that may go out the window, but I wouldn't expect to see these guys pit for a while until the tires would start to matter again. It's not going to take too long, but you also don't want to use too many tire sets early on and then not have a tire set if a caution comes out at the end. That's going to be crucial for these guys.
It really is. And when you think about, I know it's hard to think with some of what we've seen already pacing around under our 4th caution flag of the night, that it's not a bad thing to try and plan ahead. If we are going to go green to the end here, what the fuel strategy looks like and how you approach it, because Kenneth, there's so many different approaches with how you can run, how much fuel you're going to use depending on which line you're running throughout the rest of this race. So a lot can happen here, and I'm wondering if you're further on back in the field, maybe you think about coming down and topping off what is usually a 20-gallon fuel cell. It's just cut back to 15 gallons for the purposes of this race, and like Jacob was saying, roughly around the mid-40s is what you're going to get for fuel mileage here. I mean, this would be right on that fuel window if we were to go green to the end, so I think you have a little bit to consider.
That's definitely true. It's just a large game of adjustment. We've seen that happen with many drivers over the season, including Schildhouse himself. His win with the MX-5s at Daytona did not come because he just had a game plan and then threw it out the window and didn't know what to do after that. Once things kind of went haywire with the strategy, he adjusted with his teammates and said, all right, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to execute now that we're at this point in the race, at this part of the field. And look where it got them, to the front of the field at the end. And Schildhouse, of course, getting the win, his first one of season number 5 here in this Monday Night Racing Pro Series. So it's just a large game of adjustment. And of course, I can imagine that even the guys at the very front, Schildhouse and Alfredo, although they're in the best possible position for strategy and to lead the field down pit road if we get green flag stops, they've got their game plan in mind. They've got their adjustments in mind as well. So we'll just see. But again, it comes down to that factor, that denominator of whether we go green long enough, or if we stay like this, we continue to get caution after caution sporadically, and then we'll maybe have a more safe race to the finish. We'll just have to see.
No, we often have a lot of new viewers out there, especially once we decided to bring Eric Estep on. We appreciate all his work in hosting the Out of the Groove pre-race segment. One question we often get asked, are all the cars equal? Yes. In this series, we used fixed setups. You're allowed to move the brake bias around so you can put some more front brake or rear brake in the car depending on to your liking, but otherwise all of the setups in these cars are identical. Now, when you scrape them up, you damage them a little bit. maybe they're not so equal, but at least when they load off the truck, they are the exact same. And so everybody being dealt the same cards, they just have to drive them a little bit differently. As the green flag is back out, you can see David Schildhaus going right up to the outside retaining wall as he will try to lead the field from up there. Anthony Alfredo will go to the bottom, not be able to challenge him off at turn number 4, but battle for third right now. Bickford to the inside, your pole sitter, trying to make a move right here for the 3rd spot.
And we'll see if Bailey Turner offers any hard resistance. It looks like he doesn't as his car gets a little bit loose. He goes in front of his teammate. Adam Cabot will block the run out of Presley Sora out of turn 2, bring in Robbie Lyons to this potential quartet, maybe even more. Ryan Vargas, Corey Heim on the backside of this as well, but I question this outside run by Schildhaus. Yes, he's got a lot of speed, but is he wearing those rears a little bit more than he's liking right now? As here comes Anthony Alfredo, a potential move into turn 1 for the race lead. It invites third on back to go for the party. They're 3 wide in the mid-pack of the top 10, but Alfredo inside for P1.
Trying to make a move for the race lead. He'll pull up to the side of that number 20 car, but try to pull it back a little bit with the side draft, but not quite as successful. But I tend to think the same thing, Kenneth. Generally, it's kind of conventional wisdom, at least here at iRacing, that the tire wear is a little bit worse there on the top side of the track. So Schildhaus making it difficult. It's hard to pass on the bottom. The top is a very great defensive line, but in terms of long run speed, in terms of keeping the temps of those tires a little bit down, I think you'd rather be on the bottom where Anthony Alfredo is.
Yeah, I think over the long run, if we stay green, Anthony Alfredo will have the advantage. Maybe there is that mindset from Schildhaus that there is going to be another caution, and maybe that's why he's just using that outside lane right now. We don't know that for sure. What we do know is that it's working. Anthony Alfredo is really having to work the wheel to get around this 20, who, by the way, Blake, is so far the best average driver with the next-gen car in M&R history out of the playoff group. He's got an average finish of 8.25, including, of course, that win back in Season 4 at the Virtual Phoenix Raceway. So if there's anyone that knows good about this next-gen car in M&R competition, it has to be this 20 of David Schildhaus, and he is using that knowledge to his benefit right now in a tussle with Anthony Alfredo for the lead.
At least for right now, it's working for him as he has slowly worked his way up to the front of the field and now doing, and I'm sure having every intention of keeping that number 20 out front. He said it to us in his interviews time and time again. He was always looking to try and improve and try to prove that he should be a favorite in this battle to the championship 4 as they are starting to sort things out. They were 3 wide for a number of laps for about this 3rd position. Bickford now on the bottom. Robbie Lyons has joined the fray up here as well. He's sorted it out now to just double file. But how about Ryan Vargas, who was stormed up from about the 8th position on this restart, now finds himself looking almost for 2nd as he maybe threaded the needle, tried to go up the middle. He'll check up to give Robbie Lyons some room, but 0-6. Ryan Vargas looking awfully sporty. Jacob, what you got?
That tire wear was part of the game for a lot of drivers tonight in talking about what the deal is for tonight's race for the guys in the playoffs. Somebody that has started to sink through the field a little bit is Adam Cabot in that 17, and when I talked with him before the race, he kind of said that, well, you know, there's a good chance that finishing 2nd and finishing 5th, finishing in the top 5 but not winning, could be not enough to make this next round depending on who finishes around him. And he talked about tire strategy, saving those tires. He said there is a fine line between saving too much and then getting burned by losing too much track position, and saving too little and then being a sitting duck and getting passed by everybody in the closing laps, especially on longer green flag runs. Looks like we're kind of in one now. I think Cabot trying to find that balance right now while there's still some time left to get some spots back.
Well, and Eric, I know that this was something we were just talking about before they were coming to green, that we were kind of along the edge of that fuel window. When you think about somebody like Colin Fern, he has a huge points deficit to make up. He has to win, and if he thinks maybe that he can't do that by racing up to the front, maybe do it with a little fuel strategy. I think I'm hearing there might be a little bit of fuel strategy here from the 86 of Colin Fern.
Yeah, I think it's an old cliche, but if you can't just drive up through the field and beat them on pure speed, you got to try something a little different than what the leaders are all doing. I like what Adam Cabot's doing there in 9th, maybe saving some tires. This is shaping up to be the longest green flag run of the race. I'm concerned about how David Shieldhouse is working that high lane. You're seeing the lead possibly change hands right here, right now. Tires maybe beginning to fade on that 20 car, but Colin Fern, if he's got a Hail Mary up his sleeve, he better start throwing it here pretty soon.
And again, I'm only saying that because Colin Fern, typically somebody you'll see up front as there is a change for the race lead. Anthony Alfredo worked on David Shieldhouse for a number of laps, and now on lap 44 of 125, a change up front for the 3rd time tonight. Anthony Alfredo will take his Sparco Chevrolet to the top of the board, looking to lock his way into the Championship 4.
It took a while, Blake, for the tide to shift for the race lead, and also in the same manner for the lap times. At one point, Shieldhouse was almost about 2/10 faster than everybody second on back. That last time by, it's almost a 3/10 of a second difference. But on the benefactor of Anthony Alfredo and everybody else, to the 20 of David Shieldhouse. Here's a look from the 17. Adam Cabot as he tries to fight back within the top 8. We talked about him potentially saving rubber. It's been the key to a lot of his success at these intermediate tracks that have a hot track temp and are very abrasive. You think about Las Vegas, where he dominated that race near the end, won that one. You think about Legacy Texas, where he finished second to Corey Heim. A lot of that has tailored into
trouble front straightaway. Brandon Brown has hit the outside wall, and he may have had a little bit of help. No, he did not, as he tags the outside wall, getting loose off of turn number 4, and we could throw all of that out of the window as Brown loose off of turn 4. You can see it right here. Car number 12 ducks his way to the inside and points it to the outside. The beautiful racetrack revival colors from North Wilkesboro Speedway adorning that Toyota, but unfortunately it's all looking like a bunch of scrap metal right here on the front stretch at Atlanta.
And the Gerrardstown, West Virginia native Brandon Brown just got loose out of turn 4. We saw a similar situation to Will Rogers, but he kept it straight out of the 4th corner. But the 12 loses it, slams into the outside wall, a large hit that obviously damages the front end of the car and maybe even totaling damage along with that. And then the 21 of Kennan, absolutely nowhere he could go on the rear end of this. Here's a farther look from the 10, DJ Cummings, who, remember, had stayed out on old tires a while back. He sees the crash happen in front of him. He slows down, but then right
not a lot.
Goes to the 12. Yeah, he did not have enough time to swerve out of the way of the 12 and just backed it right into the rear end.
Heavy damage there for DJ Cummings. And Jacob, they're coming down to you. Pit stops aplenty here at lap 47.
And I would not expect any strategy at this point. It's a little too early on in this race. We're not even at the halfway point. 125 laps up on the big board. We're not even at lap 50 yet. It's been a little over 20 laps since they've been on pit road. So the right sides will go up on all of these race cars. They'll get to work. Now jacks will drop. They'll go over to the left side. They'll make sure they get these things full of fuel as cars start to roll at the back end of pit road. Justin Malillo is going to take 2 tires. Ford Martin in the 07, trying to find where he is. Okay, well, I must have been looking at the wrong car, maybe. I'm not sure. Nonetheless, Malillo takes 2 tires. He leapfrogs a good amount of the field coming off pit road. Seth Eggert, Steve Affont, I believe fuel only, perhaps only 7 seconds in the box for those guys. Mark Rabillis as well. Garrett Smithley and Mike Clay will stay out. They will risk it. But Anthony Alfredo and all the playoff guys, 4 tires and fuel the call, and Alfredo wins the race off pit road.
No, I can't really imagine that for the playoff drivers, you're going to risk too much. And plus, you got to think you're racing each other. These other drivers that are out there, they may just be obstacles almost in a way. You are racing those other 7 competitors, and you will adjust your strategy accordingly, perhaps like we saw with Colin Fern a little bit earlier. So as we work under caution flag number 5 here of the night at the Atlanta Motor Speedway, we'll take a quick break, and we will see you back here on the other side of it for the Roasted Gems Coffee 125 as we continue on moving at the Atlanta.
This is an Interstate battery. More pros trust this than any other out there. Yeah, more pros. More. Even more pros. Keep going, Moss. Look, we're gonna run out of time before we run out of pros who like Interstate. I mean, we'll run out of time before we even run out of left-handed pros who knit. These pros are everywhere, which means so is this battery. Right around the corner, up the street, everywhere. Interstate batteries, outrageously dependable.
Back with you here from the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Garrett Smithley at the moment scored your race leader as he elected not to come down and pit during this latest caution flag cycle. So he will move his Ford Mustang. Geez, a little bit of a throwback here. I know we're running the 2008 scan of Atlanta, but it's a Ford Mustang that he's got up there. The Witts RC Racing Products Ford. Up here, he will start at the front of the field with Anthony Alfredo alongside of him. And again, it's just tough, Kenneth. I just don't know how long these tires can hang on. We hear he's saving fuel as well, so a lot of implications here with Smithley staying out.
Yeah, Smithley taking the path not traveled on by basically anyone else in the field, which you do have to admire because he's trying something different, trying to make sure that if something does go awry and goes different, the rest of the field has to adjust at the last second. He's kind of ahead of the game. He's one step in front of the entire competition, but I don't see the 15 lasting longer than approximately 5 seconds by the time they get back to turn 1, because if that, one of the last restarts taught us anything, is that if you stay out on old tires, good luck. You're going to have a nice job trying to avoid all the faster traffic. We'll see what happens on the restart, but the 15 on a lonely island on the worn rubber.
See if he can do it, how long he can hang on as he approaches the restart zone. Green flag in the air. You can see a little bit of a wiggle out of that 15. Those old tires not complying at the moment, as Anthony Alfredo will say thank you very much as he'll go to the middle of the racetrack and look to power away from car number 15. He will do so. So will David Schildhouse. So will James Bickford, Ryan Vargas, and the rest of the field.
It was a solid pick right there for Ryan Vargas. He was behind James Bickford, and because of the slower traffic, Vargas had an easy time saying bye-bye to the 29 and getting an extra point now out of turn 4. Now, what does he have for the top 2? We'll just have to find out. Bickford in a tussle here with Nick Olsen, who's broken into the top 4 in that Grit Esports bright chrome and black a Chevy Camaro. He's got a couple more drivers as well. Corey Heim in the mix. Bailey Turner on the backside. Will Rogers, who we saw had trouble earlier on tonight, now back in the mix. So many of them trying to implicate the playoff battle. And here comes Nick Olsen underneath Ryan Vargas. But a pass off or not into turn 3. Never mind. He's back underneath.
Olsen will look for that third spot as he'll duck his number 24 car all the way down to the bottom of the racetrack. Vargas trying to stay in line with the draft and run the middle to high line here. As you can see, Corey Heim, Will Rogers shuffling out, looking for some clean air. Bit of an adjustment, though, here for David Schildhouse. He's been running the top of the racetrack pretty much since the drop of the green flag. No more. Schildhouse right now wrapped around that bottom inside white line. I don't think he's going to be venturing up top too much soon. I think he learned his lesson riding up there just a little too long.
He definitely did learn, but of course, it was in the opening jump of the race. We had those cautions, and he stayed around where he's basically started on the green flag all race long. So he had that opportunity of experimentation. He saw that it didn't really work over the long run, and now he's got that extra knowledge and can say, okay, here's what I'm going to do to change things up on the next restart. And now I've already got the knowledge of what you can do on that high side. He can use it later on in the race if need be, but he knows exactly what pace is up there and what he can do with this car. He is stuck, though, in a battle with the 51 Corey Heim, who has stepped into the top 3, and Ryan Vargas, who has really come alive here, Blake, as of lap 55, inside for the race lead on Alfredo.
It's getting dicey for the race lead as well as Ryan Vargas looked to take it from Anthony Alfredo through the last set of corners. Not able to do it as he had a big move, or a big wiggle, I should say, off of turn number 2. Will kill his momentum, but here comes Corey Heim. Shot out of a cannon and virtually out of nowhere. How many times have we said that here in Season 5 of Monday Night Racing? Heim goes up into second, and now driver 51, that Toyota Camry, looking to try to go to the race lead all over the back bumper and perhaps some contact with Anthony Alfredo.
There was contact. Alfredo got loose, but he saved it. And now the two Toyotas are going to work up top to get the race lead away. Corey Heim, a push from the 55. The Space Station Gaming car of Will Rogers. And for a moment, matter of fact, completely out of turn 4. New race leader, Corey Heim. They almost made contact for a second as Alfredo drifted up the track. And Rogers potentially looking for the lead himself back to turn 1.
Heim will go to the bottom. He'll take the race lead for a moment, but Will Rogers now, you can throw his hat in the mix of drivers who want to shake it up here at the front of the field at Atlanta. And boy, does he build up a run off of turn number 2. As quick as Heim takes it, Will Rogers takes it right back. So now Rogers, Heim, Alfredo, Vargas, your top 4. They're side-by-side for 5th between Shieldhouse and Lions. And once again, side-by-side for the top spot as well between Heim and Will Rogers.
And you can tell how they've thinned out a little bit, Blake. Top 9 going into turn 1 this time by all within 0.6 of a second. And then it's Bailey Turner all by himself running the last spot into the top 10. Bickford gets loose out of turn 2. Same deal for Presley Sora. They'll both go side by side, but it is a game of draft. Up at the front, Rogers trying to hold on. Corey Heim looking to the inside, and a majority of the playoff field in the mix for this top 5, top 10. But here comes guys like Robbie Lyons into the top 4.
You look to the left-hand side of your screen and see all of the drivers who are contending to make the Championship 4 next Monday night in green, Interstate Batteries green, as it should be. You can see Brandon Brown at the very bottom of the field, 33rd. He is on the pit lane right now. In your top 10, you can count 5 of your Championship 4 or Championship 7, round of 7 competitors trying to make the Championship 4 in right now. A couple of drivers who are on the outside right now. Colin Fern runs in the 18th position. You can see him on your screen right there. Adam Cabot fell back a little bit earlier, currently runs in 11th, so some time for them to make up as Will Rogers will go to work to not only take the race lead, but try to extend it as it's about 8 to 10 car lengths now back to that battle for second.
And I'm seeing more playoff drivers here, Blake, in this top 9 get loose on the racetrack, specifically out of turn 2. And I'm wondering here with these guys, Rogers, Heim, Nick Olson, think about Robbie Lyons, with them starting to puncture themselves into this battle for the top positions on the racetrack here at Atlanta. Are these playoff guys pushing more on their stint to avoid getting sworn by everybody, including their playoff competition? Because you lose one bit of momentum here, and there's a playoff driver right behind you looking to take all the marbles, specifically in this case of Alfredo. If he makes a mistake, there's the 20, there's the 29, and even further back, even if they make more mistakes, lose more momentum, there's the 98. There's a couple more drivers in there as well for the taking, Ryan Vargas included in that mix. So how hard are these playoff guys pushing now that these non-playoff guys are really putting themselves in this battle and being as aggressive as they can be?
Well, again, I think it's all about what position you're in. If you're James Bickford, if you're Anthony Alfredo, David Shieldhouse, Presley Sora, you just want to run at the front of the field. You can afford to wear those tires out a little bit. Just keep your track position, and you should advance to the Championship 4. However, if you're Ryan Vargas right now, if you're Colin Fern, maybe even Adam Cabot, you have a little bit of time to make up. You could see pretty much all 3 of those drivers going with a little bit more of a conservative strategy, hoping that this run will play out over the long run and really trying to save those tires and have it at the end. So a bit of divergence here in strategies between some drivers that should in theory be safe, Eric, and some drivers that, well, maybe they're not so safe. They got to try something that's different than what everybody else is doing.
Absolutely, and you see a lot of the drivers at the front of this pack right now are those who are safer in points, as you're just talking about. So, yeah, varying strategies. Right now, I'm distracted because the chat's trying to come up with a name for this new version of Atlanta. We're running the old Atlanta here in this race, but Atlantona from Tyler in the chat is the leading theory. That's not easy to say. I've been struggling to say it to myself under my breath the last few minutes, but you guys in the booth can give it a shot. I don't know.
Atlantona. Oh man, that's that's not an easy one. That takes a little bit of time to get used to right there. There's Atlanta Dega, I guess. You know, perhaps if
I like
you're thinking about ones that are a little bit easier to say, but I don't know. I think you give this a couple of laps, it's not going to look like any of those racetracks. As you can see the field all spreading out, all running different lines. This is on board the number 5 of Bailey Turner. You can see Ryan Vargas to his outside. This is a battle to try and stay inside the top 10. Battle for 9th on your screen. as they are door-to-door, mere inches off each other for second. Corey Heim and James Bickford nearly made contact into turn number 3, and perhaps they even did. I think there may have been a little bit of a touch between driver 29 and car 51, as Will Rogers still about half a second or a little more up on your second and third place runners.
And he's liking the situation right now, Blake, for sure. Watching those guys go side by side and watching Corey Heim lock down a majority of these playoff guys. Now they're starting to break free with Bickford getting by. Here comes Alfredo, the next one on the hit list, and Schildhaus on the backside of this as well. It's helping Rogers just contain his composure and just run laps at the very front of the field. But what I'm noticing is that there's a guy slowly coming up through the field, and that's the 17, Adam Cabot. We talk about his strategy to save tires. He even said it himself on the interview with Eric Estep on the Out of the Groove pre-race show. He's setting laps faster than the leaders right now. Last time a 32.7 out of the 17. Your leader Rogers set a 32.9. A majority of the others also doing the same. And here's a send inside turn 3 on the likes of Presley Sora. And the methodical move up through the field working in the favor of the 17 with 58 to go.
Well, I'll tell you one driver that was even faster than Adam Cabot that last lap. It was Colin Fern, who runs in 14th. So another driver who really committed to saving those tires perhaps may have something to say. You could see that lead getting a little bit closer to the front of his windshield. The driver for Brandon Built Motorsports, car number 86. Perhaps he may have something to say here, as the leaders may have worn out their tires just a little bit. Will Rogers had about half a second of a lead. That is trimmed, and oh, Rogers into the outside wall. Will keep it along here the front straightaway. Rogers got loose, and you can see he is still fishtailing that number 55 Toyota on the front straightaway. No spin, no caution, but Will Rogers perhaps used up those Goodyear Eagles, and he will fall hard through the rest of the field.
And that may be race over there for the 55. I can imagine some tolling damage on the right front. He used this fast repair. Remember, Blake, earlier on tonight after he got in a big crash into turn 1. So for the Flying Hawaiian, that may be the race done. Here from Atlanta Motor Speedway, it'll shift hands to the 29 of James Bickford. Again, Corey Heim still playing defense for second. There's Anthony Alfredo on the low side. Nick Olson on the very top, and then Adam Cabot on the backside of this, slowing down, of course, for the traffic up in front, but just trying to weave his way through as best as possible. A large, unpredictable moment there for the 55, but a caution will come out, and it'll be on behalf of, looks like Rogers, as he comes down to pit road. It looks like no other drivers in trouble, so it might have just been that 55 in trouble after hitting the outside wall out of turn 4.
Well, again, Rogers was kind of well off the pace. You can see right there, he's on the bottom of the racetrack. He was somewhat sideways and makes it out into the grass. But again, that was nothing that would warrant a caution right there, as you know, he's well off the racing surface. I don't see anything else that would have warranted a yellow flag right there, but nevertheless, we'll try to figure out. Colin Fern very upset over the radio, Jacob, about that yellow flag being flown.
Yep, there we go. That's the right button. I just heard Josh Mendoza say something, so let me rewind and listen to that again. Maybe, if it'll let me. And it will not. Cool. Trying to figure out exactly what the deal is here. I think, here we go. Hold on, maybe. Give me 1 second. Looked like Will Rogers was spinning out on the apron, so the caution was thrown for that. I guess they thought he was going to come back up onto the racetrack. Meanwhile, pit road is a very busy place. The entire field on pit road. Again, another 20 laps on a green flag run or so before they pulled the trigger to come onto pit road. We're past halfway. Everybody in their box. Left sides are down. They're rolling away. Looks like James Bickford going to come away with the race lead off pit road. Alfredo, Corey Heim, Nick Olson, and David Schildhaus, your top 5 after pit stops.
You see the top 3 rolling off of pit road right there. James Bickford going to lead them off of pit road, somebody who's trying to lock his way into the championship for next season. But of course, we are so appreciative of the support this season for the Monday Night Racing Pro Series presented by Interstate Batteries, because they are built to top industry standards. Interstate Batteries has been the technician's choice for 9 years and counting. Powered by a distributor network of 300 wholesale warehouses and backed up by more than 150,000 dealers around the world, as well as 200 All Battery Center franchise stores, Interstate seeks to deliver the most trustworthy source of power to the world every single day. Interstate Batteries, outrageously dependable. And again, a caution flag, I believe that's number 6 or 7 right there. As we will bring the field through turns 1 and 2. A couple of drivers have not yet come down to pit lane. Most of them, or perhaps all of them, excuse me, looking to try and get a wave around to make up a lap. Maxwell Kennan, Brandon Brown, Michael Massey, the 3 drivers that will be able to get waved around the pace car here should we stay, or yes, should we get the 1-to-go signal this next time by. We imagine that that will happen. And, oh boy, it wouldn't be Monday Night Racing without a little bit of something to kind of throw into the mix, Kenneth.
Yeah, it's definitely true. It's definitely not the first. It's definitely not going to be the last time that we have somewhat of a shakeup there. Obviously, like you guys said, Colin Fern not happy at all. He was basically blaring over the radio in objection to that call, the yellow with Will Rogers, after he got in trouble, and he was basically limping it with a toe link destroyed out of turns 3 and 4, but nonetheless, he will try and pick things back up. The good news for him is that he starts 8th on the restart, and he is basically within striking distance. He's got the targets right in front of him of the likes of Presley Sora, Adam Cabot, David Schildhouse, Anthony Alfredo, and your leader when we go back green, James Bickford. So there is something to be looking forward to if you're that 86, because this is the highest he's been all race long. We'll see what he can do with it, but obviously not happy. Him and Cabot definitely did not want to see that yellow. They've been the best cars on the long run, and to see that yellow come out and to see it go back to the short run game, it's going to mean a whole world of trouble unless they try and push it when we go back to the restart.
One driver also had an unsafe pit exit. Ford Martin dipped his tires onto the apron coming out onto the racetrack, so he will be served a black flag as a result of that. Bailey Turner also lost a lap. He was trying to fix audio issues. Again, we thank Jacob Hitz for running around pit road to allow me to sound like I know what I'm talking about and steal all of his hits, as it looks like we are set to go here with 51 laps to go when we take the green flag. James Bickford, Anthony Alfredo, your top 2 as they work their way into the restart zone. Bit of a stack up and a wiggle out of Nick Olson on the outside line will stack them up. So far, so good. Green flag back out. Bickford, Heim, and Anthony Alfredo, your top 3.
And that stint for Cabot and Fern just got so much worse with that 24 wiggling in front. Fortunately, it looks like Adam Cabot may be able to slip by, but for Fern, he's stuck. And here comes Schildhouse to the inside underneath Corey Heim. That's a position pass for 3rd if he can get it done out of turn 4. Alfredo hounding on the rear end of the 29 out of the 4th corner. And here comes Alfredo inside of the block for the race lead.
And not able to block him good enough, as here comes Anthony Alfredo down to the bottom of the racetrack. Bickford will hold strong in the middle. Alfredo better launch in the middle of the corner. He'll get it off the corner as well. New race leader once again at the front of the field. The Sparko Chevrolet to the top spot with Bickford in tow, and now Schildhouse in a side-by-side battle with Corey Heim for 3rd.
Well, it's no surprise, Blake, that as they come out of turn 4, you're watching 3 drivers in Alfredo, Bickford, and Schildhouse running top 3 out of the round of 7 drivers. Here's the 4th one, Presley Sora, going back to turn 1. Alfredo, Bickford, and Schildhouse out of the playoff group. They have made all the starts every time M&R has ran this NASCAR Next Gen car. They're the most experienced with this type of vehicle on the sim overall and in this type of competition. So no surprise they're out in front. There was almost contact there between Schildhaus and Corey Heim as he maintains the middle with Nick Olsen to tow. And as the top 8 or so start to break away, Anthony Alfredo looks to cut off that gap between himself and James Bickford, but not working back to turn 1.
No, it is not, and you said that was close. That was very close between Corey Heim and David Schildhaus, and Heim will take the spot, get back down to the bottom, and gives way to Nick Olsen, who has quite a run heading into turn 3. He was just in 5th at the stripe. He may have 2nd. He may have the race lead. Olsen from 5th to 1st in 1 lap. He may have it at the stripe. He does. Nick Olsen shot out of a cannon. He goes to the point here at Atlanta.
But we talk about how strong that very outside lane here is this old surface, but I think we may have to turn our attention to that very middle. It's helped Corey Heim play a lot of defense, and right there assisted the 24 in wheeling the Chevy Camaro to the lead for the first time out of that Grit Esports marketing vehicle. There they go 3 wide for position behind. That's Robbie Lyons on that 3rd lane. Corey Heim manning the middle. Robbie really trying to gain some ground here in these past couple laps over the short run and has worked to his favor. Got around Adam Cabot, got around Schildhaus, got around Presley Sora, and here he is potentially 3 wide as Nick Olsen to the race lead for the first time after starting into the top 10 8th.
You would change things up just a little bit in terms of not winning his way into the Championship 4. He was eliminated a little earlier on in the playoffs, but right now you can see these 2 drivers in this round of 7 struggling a little bit, and I think starting to feel the heat, Jacob. I think as far as these 2 are concerned, the time's starting to run out. We're under 50 now, 45 laps to go. Fern and Vargas outside the top 10. You have to start thinking that the pressure's starting to build underneath that helmet right now.
Well, and for Colin Fern, we know he's been saving his tires pretty much every single green flag run. The problem is the fact that, he needs points. He coming into tonight, he was 28 points back from the cut line. So if he wasn't going to win, he needed a really good finish, and he needed some guys like David Schildhaus or Anthony Alfredo that are near the cut line to have some bad nights. Instead, Fern has been stuck mid-pack, and Alfredo and Schildhaus have been duking it out for the lead all night long. For somebody like Ryan Vargas, he's been mid-pack. He's hoping that he can claw his way back to the front, but I think now he's trying to save his tires a little bit. He's struggled with it all night long as far as not saving enough. Now he might be saving too much, stuck back in traffic, and as you mentioned, Blake, these guys are running out of time, even for somebody like Adam Cabot. Right now, with where he is, P8, David Schildhaus, 2 spots up the road. Schildhaus is doing everything that he said he was going to do, hang around that 17, just to ensure that Schildhaus is the guy that makes it to the stage and not the 17 of Adam Cabot.
And that's what I was just going to mention, Kenneth, is the fact that all 3 drivers who are at the bottom of this round of 7, they're running bottom 3. If you count these 7 drivers, they are the bottom 3 in this race. And even for somebody like Adam Cabot, I think this is a point worth making, that you have to make something happen at some point. Cabot right now running in the 8th position. Great run, not going to be enough. He has to go up there, and with how everybody else is running right now, he pretty much has to go up here and win this race if he were to try to make the Championship 4.
And that's what he talked about in that conversation with Eric Estep on our Out of the Groove pre-race show. He said that finishing 2nd, 3rd, or even 4th into the top 5 probably won't be good enough. And this is probably the worst race to have all the guys that are good above the cut line going into the race perform as best as they have pretty much all of these playoffs, because we've seen many rounds, eliminator or not, where a lot of these guys have had some sort of issue strike them. They've had some sort of curveball thrown their way, but tonight it feels like the ball's been perfectly straight and they've had everything lined up from the very jump. Nothing has gone wrong out of these guys. So Cabot, Fern, Vargas, all these guys who are backing out, they have to really try something here. Now that we're in 40 laps to go, if we stay green, it's only going to get worse if you're not clinging on to a long green flag strategy as well.
Well, one car looks like they may have scraped the wall into turn number 1. That was Robbie Lyons, who was second. Now he's in a side-by-side battle with Corey Heim for third. So move the non-playoff contenders up here to the top 3 spots as Olsen will continue to lead this field. Heim trying to make up some ground as well. But one thing I think that comes into consideration here, Eric, is the fact that these drivers cannot make it on fuel to the end of this race from here. So if you are a Colin Fern, if you are a Ryan Vargas, you may have one more trick up your sleeve, and that may be to stay out and let's hope for a caution that you could trap everybody else a lap down, or perhaps the opposite. You could short pit and hope that maybe you catch a yellow at the right time. Either way, there's at least a little bit of wiggle room, knowing that pretty much everybody's going to have to come down for fuel at some point.
Yeah, it is interesting, those 2 options you just picked. I've been watching the lap times, the intervals on the left-hand side. It looked like a couple laps ago. You see that number still ticking down. Colin Fern up to 10th. He's hit the go button. He's saved for about 10 or 15 laps. He's going full bore, trying to make up track position now. We'll see. Does he choose to short pit and maybe make up another second? Does he try to stay out and continue this long-run strategy? I'm watching because you guys just explained it perfectly. The 3 lowest-running playoff drivers on your leaderboard right now are the 3 who basically need to win to make it into the championship 4. Colin Fern's the one I'm watching. He was heated after that perhaps errant caution call a few moments ago. He's trying to make the most of it, and he's looking like a man on a mission now, up to 9th place.
Well, not only was he heated, his car, and I think something has been lit underneath the hood of that race car. Leader last time by, 32.713 for Nick Olsen. Colin Fern, 32.369 to the best of about 0.4 of a second. It was half a second the previous lap, so Colin Fern has flipped the switch on, and he says it's time to go. Once again, makes up considerable ground on your race lead. He was about 3 seconds back. He is now 1.3 seconds back. So Colin Fern perhaps going at the right time to try and make his way into the championship 4.
His hand was forced, Blake, last week at the Auto Club Speedway, where he got into a crash and was basically forced all the way to the very bottom of the leaderboard in the top 7. Now he's trying to right his wrongs. And remember, last season, he was in the complete opposite place by the time we got to the penultimate race at Iowa with the trucks. He won that one, locked himself into the championship 4 for good. So by the time we got to Nashville Super Speedway, he had no worries. This time around, he has practically every worry in the world in the final 35 laps of this race. Here he is, outside on a pass on the 98. He's going to follow in the tracks of the 17. They both have methodically worked up to the field, so potentially if this run stays green, it may be the saving grace for the 86 to get back onto the stage at the Charlotte eSports Hub. But he's got one driver in Adam Cabot who wants to do this very same thing and defend his season championship, so there is a lot of conflict here into the final 34.
Fern very fast. You can see a lot of green spoilers right here. 3rd through 8th are 6 of your 7 championship contenders. We almost had a spin in the back with car number 41. That was Matt Stallneck, but nothing to speak of now. Up front, you could see Corey Heim, Nick Olsen duking it out for the race lead. That allows Fern to make up one more spot. Further on back, that gold 86 car by Anthony Alfredo. Colin Fern on a march to the front of the field, as now Nick Olsen has his hands full with Corey Heim. And you see going up to the top of the racetrack does Olsen and the driver out of Norwich, New York, in Colin Fern.
And as they go side by side for the lead, this is exactly what guys like Adam Cabot and Colin Fern want, because they're holding up all the other playoff drivers right behind them. James Bickford, Schildhouse, Alfredo, all of them have had to keep away from the 51 and the 24 just because they've been very strong, and they've been some of the spoilers here as they continue to go even on the front straightaway, and the 24 will lead that time by back into turn 1. So for the 17 and the 86, it's offering a solid pick and a solid buffer for them to see what they can do and to maximize their pace. Outside for the 17, he'll work that 3rd seam, will get to the outside of the 29. Heim will not give him the space back to turn 3, but this may be a pivotal change of position that gives Adam Cabot potentially a positive move back over that cut line, and he'll go outside of Corey Heim on a turn 4.
Adam Cabot to the top side of the racetrack. He's going to have some momentum, not a lot of draft, but he'll be able to pull Corey Heim back with a little bit of side draft. Cabot into second. Cabot looking through the middle as we may go 3 wide for the race lead off of turn number 2. What a run from Corey Heim. He'll slam the door on Nick Olson. Corey Heim to the top spot, but Nick Olson not quite done yet. Back down to the bottom of the racetrack, side by side into turn number 3. Here comes Adam Cabot, big run in the middle line. He will get a run on Olson as Olson slides off of turn 4. Heim to the top spot, but Adam Cabot is cooking.
And look what that's going to do for the drivers behind. Shieldhouse and Bigford, they're starting to get together almost. Presley Sora, Anthony Alfredo, Colin Fern getting invited back to the mix. It is only getting spicier. Under 30 laps to go from the virtual Atlanta Motor Speedway. Olson still trying to pick up his grip. He falls short of P4 on the racetrack and P3. Shieldhouse is cleared. He's going to try to work on to the top 2, but Adam Cabot mounts a run at a turn 4 to a potential lead change with 29 laps left.
Oh, he got a great run off of turn number 4 and is really looking like his car can go anywhere. He can go low, he can go to the middle in Heim's dirty air, and you see him cut down to the bottom. A decent run here for Adam Cabot. Where will he go in turns 3 and 4? And you have to remember, if he gets the race lead, it is likely David Shieldhouse or Anthony Alfredo right now who would drop down beneath the cut line. They had 3 points separating them now. Shieldhouse is 3 points ahead of Alfredo, so if Cabot can take the lead, it will be a tie right now for the playoff cutoff. Cabot to the top side of the racetrack. He's going to try to build up a run here on Corey Heim off of turn 2.
And what arises is the memory of last season. Ryan Vargas coming to the line in Nashville Superspeedway and winning. He was 6th in the playoff standings before that race went green. And if you're Shieldhouse, you do not want to have that situation happen at his expense. Where this 17 gets to victory lane, he locks himself into the championship 4, and where Shieldhouse is practically moved out of the way. And speaking of a move, here comes a crossover inside for the lead. Adam Cabot to the bottom of the 51. We've seen Heim play some solid defense on the middle. He will remain constant at a turn 2. He'll hold on to the lead. Cabot will have to hit the reset button and try one more time.
Just seeing if Cabot could maybe stay alongside Corey Heim off of turn number 2. Was not able to do it that last time by, but off the bottom of the racetrack, he's able to hold serve right now with Corey Heim. Cabot, did he perhaps go a little too soon, or is he just at the right time? You can see Shieldhouse, Bickford, Sora, and Alfredo behind him. Colin Fern has fallen back significantly to the 10th spot. He is slow in his 86 car. He was half a second off of the race leaders. Vargas into the outside wall off of turn number 2. So Vargas, perhaps some issues further on back in the field. This is when you have to think strategy right here. Do you have enough to keep moving, or are you going to try something different? As Colin Fern thought he had something to save his tires, but right now he is free falling through the field, Jacob.
Gabe Wood just came on pit road. He was in the 13th position. Matt Stallneck makes the call. He's going to come on to pit road. Interesting call this time by. There'll be 30 laps on this green flag run on these tires with about 25 to go. They're basically cutting what's left of this race in half if they pit now. If they decide to stay out and wait a little bit longer, they'll have fresher tires at the end, but their tires right now are going to be screaming for mercy. I know we were only having about 20, 25 lap runs earlier before caution would interrupt, and the drivers were on basically rims at that point with some of these tires. I think that's what's happening to Ryan Vargas now. They'll use this stuff up too much, and now he's just praying for a caution. It's a good battle for the lead, guys.
Side by side in contact off of turn number 2. Adam Cabot looking for the race lead and a spot in the championship 4 with 24 laps to go. Up the racetrack goes Cabot, nearly into the side of Corey Heim. Another piece of defensive driving from Corey Heim will keep him in the race lead, but Cabot not going away.
And I'm surprised, Blake, that Cabot continues to run the bottom despite every attempt failing, because the 51 has been so good in that middle. You can look to even other battles with other playoff drivers. He's ran the middle, he's played the defense, and he has held the position out of every single side of this Atlanta Motor Speedway. Now Cabot tries a different mix. He'll go to the middle. It looks like the 51 will wash up the track. Maybe a call down pit road. It is. He's going down to pit road. Your leader is in this time by.
Oh, and he may have been speeding right there as Corey crossed the line, and he's got a black flag. So Corey Heim speeding on the pit road, and that will warrant a little bit of a stop in the box and take him out of contention. Adam Cabot right now into the championship 4 with 22 laps to go.
And that's a mistake you do not want to make at a track that is so tough to go down pit road in real life. And here comes your leader. Adam Cabot almost got swiped by the other guys behind. He'll lock up the brakes. Is that a potential speeding penalty? Don't know for sure. But Cabot in this time by. Shieldhouse and the rest will wait an extra lap. Cabot on the short pit this time with 21 to go.
Oh, Cabot's all good. Yeah, he crossed the line at about 58 miles an hour, but again, it's timing lines here. It's not radar or your overall speed. So he gave the time back, didn't speed by the time he hit the next timing line. So Cabot is all good, entered nearly perfectly, all things considered. Now Bickford, now Shieldhouse, they'll also come down to pit road. So Shieldhouse is fine. James Bickford, most important pit of the season, no speeding penalty either for James
Gary
Bickford.
Sexton, though. Gary Sexton, Blake, he just pitted from inside the top 10. He speeds on pit road. He gets a black flag, so he'll wind up sitting in the box for a little while longer. This time by, Presley Sora is going to make the call. He's going to come onto pit road. Robbie Lyons is coming back onto pit road. I know he clobbered the cone, didn't show back black flag in sim, but he's coming back in anyway right now. Here comes Sora off the banking, down on the pit road. He does not lock the tires up. He's all good. Case Kallenbach, he just left pit road. He has a black flag. He'll have to come back in. Anthony Alfredo all by himself for the most part out on the racetrack for the race lead. Have to imagine he's going to be pitting soon. And Corey Heim, by the way, after that black flag, he's done. He's going home. He is out of the race. A really fast car, potentially somebody that could have had major championship implications. He decides to pull the plug. Driver of the 51 out here at Atlanta.
You can see over the midst of this run on the left-hand side of your screen, 6 drivers have not come down pit road yet. They are led by Anthony Alfredo, Colin Fern, Adam Cabot, and not only is this a big moment here, Kenneth, for Anthony Alfredo, but Colin Fern, both these drivers, how much they could stand to gain if there's a caution right now and they get to trap their competitors a lap down.
A caution would be huge, and there was almost a moment in front of Adam Cabot. One car got loose and almost slammed into one. Here comes Alfredo into pit road. He'll lock up the front tires, but appears to be no issue of speeding. Colin Fern, I think at this juncture here, Blake, has wasted so much of his egos that this is the strategy he needs to employ. Stay out as long as you can into the final 17 laps and hope that a caution or something goes his way. It fell his way at Iowa with his win to lock himself into the championship for last season. We'll see if it happens again, but it is looking bleak for the Brandon Built Motorsports number 86 as he will lodge the inside in 3 and 4. We'll see if he comes in this time by, and the answer will be no. He'll stay out an extra lap.
Yeah, Fern is trying to save all the fuel that he can, and I don't think he can make it to the end, but just to try something. Now, you also have to think about is that he is not your race leader right now. Garrett Smithley is still your race leader, so even right now, Colin Fern would not lock his way even with this strategy call. So Colin Fern, a big gamble, but he has to hope that there's not enough fuel in the tank for Garrett Smithley to try and make it to the end.
And it doesn't really matter because, as you mentioned, Colin Fern, he's not going to be able to make it on fuel. They last pitted on lap number 72. That's going to be, 53 laps or so. We have not had a lap of caution since that pit stop. So these guys should not be able to make it to the end on fuel. Garrett Smithley, your race leader, he pitted one less time than everybody else. He has an extra set of tires on pit road if he were to need them. Now, since he's staying out, it doesn't really matter just because he's just going to have that one set for, I guess, fun at the end. Maybe if we get a green-white checker and he thinks he can fly through the field. Justin Malillo is in that same boat in the 3rd spot. He has yet to pit. He pitted for fuel only back at that first stop. He has an extra set of tires as well. Ryan Vargas, though, he is flying back there in P5. Let's go to Kenneth.
Yeah, Vargas is trying to push. Last time by 31.4, roughly 0.4 of a second, Jacob, faster than the driver in front of him, Adam Cabot. But I think this may be the cliff for Vargas. He's got 2-lap older tires than Cabot, 3-lap older tires than the guy on his inside right now, David Schildhouse. So Vargas trying as much as he can, guys, to push to the maximum limit in the final 13, but it may be off or not if a caution doesn't come out.
And I got to think, guys, so, of course, Colin Fern, Garrett Smithley, assuming that this strategy doesn't work out, assuming that they cannot make it, David Schildhouse, a critical pass on Ryan Vargas as he's able to get by, and he is flying up to the back of Adam Cabot. He was 0.4 faster. This could really shake things up. If Cabot were to win, I think right now Alfredo would be the first driver bumped out because he waited so long to pit. He lost so much time that he would lose the points necessary to stay in if Cabot were to lead. But right now, David Schildhouse off at turn number 4, he's already well in on points. So if he wins, not going to shake things up quite as drastically. But what will Adam Cabot do here in the turns 1 and 2? Season on the line potentially. Schildhouse going to go to the middle. Almost contact made with a lap car as Case Collenbach getting out of the way of Adam Cabot. And boy, God, was that close, as Schildhouse now building up a run on Adam Cabot for what would cycle out to be the race lead. Still 3 cars on track. Now it's just 2. Smithley is in. Colin Fern is your race leader.
Smithley is still on the track, Blake. Colin Fern just passed him at speed. It sounds like Garrett Smithley is trying to make it to the end without pitting. Right now, with the black box that it gives you in sim, he is going to wind up, I think, a lap short with where he's running right now. As he's coming to the start-finish line, he's projected about 9 laps of fuel remaining. He's taking 10 laps to go, but Colin Fern has taken the lead. I would imagine, though, since he's driving faster than Garrett Smithley, he's not trying to save to make it to the end. He's just hoping he can get a caution flag to cause some strategy. Still side by side between Schildhouse and Cabot.
This would be the cycle through of the race lead. If those drivers cannot make it, Schildhouse will overtake Adam Cabot. So now Cabot slots on back. Cabot needs to win to make it into the championship 4. Schildhouse goes on by. Vargas continues to lose ground to both of them. So a critical pass for David Schildhouse to make on Adam Cabot, and he will look to drive away. But up front, Jacob, I want to ask you, is there a chance that Colin Fern can make it here? I know Smithley might be close. Is there an opportunity for Colin Fern to maybe make it to the end, assuming too that he stays in front of the race leaders? Schildhouse right now catching him at about 1.5 laps per second, so they may run him down before too long.
We were looking at about a 40 to 45 lap window. Now that's at speed. Right now he's at 46 laps. He's going to be at 8 laps to go. 7.5 as he hits the back straightaway. I know he's clutching, he's lifting early, but he has given up a lot of time. He just has to look back about 10 seconds to David Schildhouse. They are running, well, a 1.5 seconds faster a lap, so they're going to get there to Colin Fern. If Fern is going to win this race, he is going to have to block, and he is going to have to run more than likely about 4 laps at speed. If the 15 has to save more fuel to make it to the end, I don't see a path for Colin Fern to make it to the end unless he's been saving this whole green flag run, and even then that's pushing it.
And here comes Adam Cabot, who chased down David Schildhouse and will pass him back. So Adam Cabot up into 4th. They will approach Justin Melillo here in about 1 lap or 2, running 3rd. They will approach Smithley about the next lap. So Adam Cabot right now in front of David Schildhouse. So Cabot right now on the outside looking in would potentially bump out what would be right now Anthony Alfredo. So Schildhouse and Alfredo separated by 3 points coming into the night. It was Alfredo who held the advantage. Right now, Alfredo is exactly 3 points behind David Schildhouse, so that would be a tiebreaker right now, unless Alfredo can make up some more spots.
Yeah, it is going to be tough and awfully close. And remember, we talked about tiebreakers going to, I believe, the best finish in each round. There goes Adam Cabot around the 15 of Garrett Smithley. So Fern is the last driver on the target to knock off into the final 5 laps. And you have to imagine, Blake, whether there was a mind game played with Cabot and Schildhout. Schildhout has a lap better on his tires than that 17, but he pushed by. I believe Cabot just said, all right, I'll let you have it. I'll let you get this overconfidence, but I'll strike you right back when it matters most. Into the 4 laps left here from the virtual Atlanta Motor Speedway. Cabot has the opportunity to get his 2nd win of season 5 and arguably the most pivotal, but what happens with Colin Fern? 3.4 seconds between 1st and 2nd.
Cabot's picked up the pace a little bit, but so has Colin Fern, as now it's only about 1.3 seconds per lap. That would be enough to catch Colin Fern at the end, assuming that he keeps this pace and assuming that he can try and make it to the end on fuel. He'll approach the stripe this time. 3 laps to go to determine the championship. 6 of them are in your top 6. Fern and Cabot must win to advance.
And if you're the 86 of Colin Fern, this is the strategy you needed to employ. And you didn't get the caution that you wanted. You didn't get the right timing that fell your way at the virtual Iowa Speedway last season. So this is all you have left. This is the hand stretch as far as it can be. But Fern losing so much time. 2 seconds down to 1.9 seconds. Fern trying to hold on as much as he can. 2 laps to go from Atlanta, and Cabot is closing very quickly.
Jacob, what are you hearing from the 86 camp?
Just based off of timing, if this gap holds up, that last time by, Cabot only picked up a second. If Fern can block and hold Adam Cabot off on the last lap, Fern may have a shot to win this race. We're coming to the white flag. The gap is only 1.5 seconds. If Colin Fern has enough fuel, he could win this race. Caution is out!
Caution is out!
It's Garrett Smithley, turn 2.
Garrett Smithley in turn number 2. Unabated, just a simple self-spin off the corner, and I'm sure Colin Fern cannot believe it, as Smithley may have had a mechanical issue or a technical issue or something, but Colin Fern nearly had the championship 4 in his grasp, and it all goes away just like that.
And over the radio, Fern said he's going to lose everything. He's going to lose his marbles. Remember that caution that came out? Fern had been so strong in a long green flag run. He was yelling over the radio about what happened, and it's all happening all over again. Jacob, here comes Fern on a pit road.
Well, here's the deal, guys. Remember, Fern has a set of tires that he can put on the race car. He's not too far out of this yet. He's going to lose spots. It depends on how many people pit with him. The problem is, not a lot of people have sets left. Fern has a set left. Melillo has a set left. Garrett Smithley has a set left. Obviously, he was the caution flag. Mark Rabilis is going to come onto pit road. So will Josh Slate. We've got maybe 22 or so guys on the lead lap. I don't think that math is right. Let's go maybe 19 on the lead lap. Looks like Bailey Turner's going to get the free pass. So he's going to be back outside the top 15. And Colin Fern, when that caution came out, he was within sight of Barney the flagman coming off of turn number 4. And for a single car spin that, you know, in front of traffic, should have been called a caution. Heartbreak for Colin Fern. We'll see how big he sends it. Now remember, guys, all of the playoff guys have yet to use their fast repair. So we could still have some smash 'em up style racing here and get some implications out of this.
Oh, man, and not only that, I mean, I love that Fern has tires. He's going to be several seconds faster than the entire field, but is 2 laps enough to do it? I don't see that being enough time, even if you do have such a massive advantage. You're going to have to, I think if you're Colin Fern, you basically need a green-white checkered or 2 to give yourself a chance here. I just don't think there's enough time. There's not enough laps to try and make up all that ground. We'll see where he officially restarts, though. Right now, he's scored in 11th, and, oh, man, that is so I mean, this is going to be so close. And not only that, so you have Fern who falls back. Now you have Adam Cabot who needs a win. He's going to be put at the front of the field. He has to win to get in. And right now, he would bump out, I believe it would be David Schoenhaus who runs in second. If my math is correct, I mean, Schoenhaus +7 on the cut line. Alfredo is 3 up on him. Bickford is 4 up on Schoenhaus. Yes, so Schoenhaus, if this holds, Cabot would bump out David Schoenhaus. So if you're that 20 car, you're going to side draft. You're going to do everything possible because this is your season on the line.
This is the opportunity, Blake, to learn from what Corey Heim had been doing the whole race in that middle groove and use it to all hell on this last restart. If you can, though. If you can, because as well, you think about Adam Cabot being your leader. He's going to go into this next Booth Columbus restart zone with the advantage. So if he launches first and if he clears back to turn 1, then Schildhaus's concern isn't getting back to Cabot. It's going to be defending against the likes of James Bickford, and then his hand is forced, and he's in a peculiar situation. With Colin Fern, though, it's a double-edged sword. Yes, he has tires, but I think back to the season finale at Homestead in Season 3 where Raja Karuth was put in the same situation, and he got trapped. His neck was basically strangled by all the cautions coming out in green-white checker territory. He could pick up maximum 1 or 2 spots under green, but then the caution would fly, and then he would have to do it all over again. I'm not sure whether this will work for Colin Fern. I think his best bet is this staying green, but 10 spots is a lot in a field, especially with the playoff drivers at the very front.
Oh, man. Oh, man. A lot left to be decided at our first attempt at overtime in what is sure to be a thrilling finish here. Adam Cabot, David Schoenhaus, James Bickford, Anthony Alfredo, who, by the way, is on fresher tires than these 3 up here, all fighting for their playoff lives. Colin Fern has the freshest tires in the field, but you can see that gold 86 car with the green spoiler all the way back there in 11th. Early jump there for Adam Cabot. Green flag in the air. 2 laps left to settle it. Who will be in the championship 4?
This is what I was worried about. Bickford putting the pressure here on Schildhaus. Luckily, the 20 is able to clear. Anthony Alfredo, though, he will surge to the outside. He'll make a challenge for second. They're 4 wide at a turn 2. There's a look on board with Ryan Vargas. Fern trying to pick up. He's now up to P6. He looks under Presley Sora, but Adam Cabot will have sight of the white flag in this Roasted Gems Coffee 125. Does Fern have enough time to get back to the front?
He got cut off a little bit there by David Schoenhaus, but Fern is up to 4th. White flag in the air. Adam Cabot leading them here at Atlanta with just a couple corners left to go. Here comes Colin Fern up to the inside of Anthony Alfredo. He'll go into second. Cabot or Fern, who is going to sit on the stage next Monday night? Cabot goes low. Fern goes high into 3 and 4. Cabot is up the racetrack. And Colin Fern, unbelievable. Colin Fern is going to win and lock his ticket to the championship 4.
Schoenhaus is out. Alfredo finished in front of him. David Schoenhaus gets bumped.
Unbelievable. Colin Fern 11th to 1st. In 2 laps, he had it ripped out of his hands, and he drove up and took it for his own. Colin Fern will join your championship 4. So will Anthony Alfredo, James Bickford, and Presley Sora, as we believe unofficially David Schildhaus is out.
That 2 years in a row now that somebody has won themselves in to the championship 4 in the penultimate race. Ryan Vargas did it in Nashville, and Colin Fern does it here tonight at Atlanta. Unbelievable.
There's a clutch gene somewhere, guys, in these playoff guys in the penultimate race. It has to be 2 seasons in a row that this happens. And Colin Fern, you have to give him credit, started 17th tonight. The second deepest driver in the field to begin this race from Atlanta, and had an abysmal start where he was trapped in the midfield, trapped in the very same place he began the race, and then had 2 opportunities thrown out of his hands after untimely cautions came out. but it's one set. The very one factor that we were not really talking about all race long until the very end plays into Colin Fern's favor, and the 86 storms through the field in the final 2 and gets his first win of Season 5.
I was about to say no more timely from somebody who we thought would have multiple victories at this point in the year to do it at the perfect time. You see, right here is where I thought that maybe he had lost it. He got held up a little bit from David Schildhaus, and I thought that momentum would just crush his hopes, but you could see how hard he was able to drive into turn 1. Alfredo goes up top, and there's just nothing that Alfredo could do. Fern on the fresher tires. This is old Atlanta. This is how much those tires matter. And then Fern had free choice. He could pick any lane he so desired, and he goes up top. Cabot runs him up the racetrack for all he's worth, but wasn't going to crash him. A good, clean decision right there. And Colin Fern gets it done, locks his way into the championship for Adam Cabot, David Schildhaus, and Ryan Vargas eliminated after tonight.
There is absolute heartbreak, Blake, among those guys, especially Cabot there. He had the win stripped away just because of the tires, and obviously, like you said, nothing he could do. He raced Fern as cleanly as he could while trying to play the best defense he could as well. And Adam Cabot will not be able to defend his Season 4 crown. And Blake, that means, by the way, that we will have our 5th different series champion when we wave the checkered at the virtual Homestead Miami Speedway and in person at the Charlotte Esports Hub. Long gone are the opportunities for Cabot to go 2 in a row. There's a different champion this time around. It's going to be one of those 4, but it's Colin Fern feeling at the top of the mountain with this win from Atlanta.
2 corners away from having a chance to defend his title, and it doesn't come to fruition. As we will take a look at your full field results here at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Colin Fern, in the most thrilling fashion, takes a clutch win, his first of the season, and one that will put him on the stage next Monday night at the Charlotte Esports Hub. Colin Fern is your winner. Adam Cabot will have to wait till Season 6 to get a second championship. He finishes in 2nd. Garrett Smithley, who brought out that last caution, finishes in the 3rd spot. Anthony Alfredo 4th. James Bickford in 5th. David Schildhaus just had it snatched away from him at the end of that one. He finishes in 6th. Presley Sora 7th. Justin Malillo 8th. Mark Rabilis finishes in 9th. And Steve Affont rounds out your top 10, Kenneth.
It'll be Nick Olsen in the 24, who had a lot of highlights in that second half of the race. Such a strong Chevy Camaro, but he picks it up to 11th. Bailey Turner, the Cabot Esports teammate, in that Terry Labonte throwback. He ends up as 12th on the racetrack. Officially, Matt Stonick is 13th as he crosses the start-finish line. He had some troubles in the opening laps of the race, got involved in that very first caution, but he picked it back up, so a solid recovery. 32nd to 14th for the ESPN NFL reporter Mike Clay, who we saw him with a Monday Night Racing shirt on ESPN a little while back in that fantasy football draft. Ford Martin, the league owner, will rack up the top 15 after starting 22nd. It's Brett Baldeck in the Quinn City News Toyota Camry that is 16th. Dakota Curtis in the 45 started 30th. He had a nice pickup to 17th at the end. Ryan Vargas did as much as he could with what he was given, but unfortunately he will be 18th in the very same spot he started tonight's Roasted Gems Coffee 125, and he is the last car on the lead lap. The first 2 drivers 1 lap down or more include the 01 of Josh Slate and the 94 of George Balfans Jr. Jacob.
And the rest. Here you see Gary Sexton. No, I'm looking at the wrong spot there. No, I'm losing my mind, guys. I'm sorry. How about 21st? That is Gary Sexton. Michael Massey in 22nd. Robbie Lyons at 23rd. DJ Cummings 24th. Max Kennan finishing 25th. Case Collenbach 26th. That's Brandon Brown in 27th. Devin Henry 28th. Gabe Wood 29th. Corey Heim, he had a really fast car. Sped coming onto pit road. Pulled the plug on the night. He finishes 30th. And then your final 5. Will Rogers, Seth Eggert, final 4 rather. I'm having a rough go at it here. Noah Lewis in 33rd. Charlie Brown winning your DoorDash award in 34th. Blake, why don't we talk with, the guy that just won himself into the season finale.
Certainly so. As we bring Colin Fern up into the booth, Colin, I can't try to guess what's going through your mind right now, but what does it mean to you that you're going to be on stage yet again next Monday night?
Oh man, it's phenomenal. Obviously we knew we had to win when we came in today, and that was a wild race. It's awesome to be able to go back down to the live event down at the Charlotte eSports Hub with Charlotte Phoenix and MNR and iRacing and everything, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. Hopefully it goes better than last year, but damn, that was exciting. Did y'all have fun?
We had some fun. How fun was it for you right there? I know there was a lot going on there at the end of that race.
Well, it was the last run. I was really quiet, didn't say much, just trying to save fuel. And once I knew I was close enough, and they were catching me like 2 seconds a lap, I had to go. And I would have had enough fuel. I think Cabot would have gotten there. I don't know if he would have been able to get by me or not. I had enough fuel coming to the white to make it, and then I got really pissed off for about a minute and a half, and John and Jeremy had to calm me down a little bit because I was really pissed off. But I felt like Ty Gibbs in an Xfinity race right there, that last restart. We just drove by him.
It certainly did. I know I'll ask you about next week. I mean, we're running Homestead Miami Speedway, running the trucks. I mean, that's got to be a pretty good combo for you, I would imagine.
Oh yeah, man, I'm a C-Fix hero. That's the trucks anywhere is the way to go. So I'm excited for it. I'm really happy Zero FG got to win. This is their home race in Atlanta, so that's pretty cool for them. And again, just thank you, John and Timmy Pacioli and Jeremy Jones, everybody that helps me out. And takes time out of their Monday nights every week to help me out. And thank you to you guys for putting this on.
All right, Colin. Well, we'll let you go celebrate and get ready for next week. And we will see you at the Charlotte Esports Hub, and we will see you on the stage.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys.
Colin Fern, car number 86, the driver out of Norwich, New York, goes to victory lane, and we will see him compete for a championship next Monday night. I'm trying to figure out who we're going to talk to next. There's so many drivers, not only that kind of finished up front, but that we want to talk to that advance to your championship floor and get some of their thoughts before we get to hear them next Monday night or see them run up on the stage here. So we will sort that out here in just a moment. Believes Adam Cabot. We're going to throw him up here. Kenneth Bueno keeps up with him. And Kenneth, a very, I'm sure, distraught driver who will not have the opportunity to defend his championship here in Season 5.
Indeed, so that one tire said the difference between the win and the loss here at Atlanta. And unfortunately, Adam, you were on the opposite end of that, trying to defend against Colin Fern in the final two corners. Just first of all, simply put, walk us through what happened from your eyes and what you were seeing out of the front windshield and the rearview mirror in those final two.
Yeah, I think distraught. That's probably a good word to describe it. I like that, Blake. But yeah, that one's tough to lose it right there at the end. But yeah, I was basically just saving tires the whole race, and every time that was about to come into effect and I was going to start reeling them back in, a caution would come out. And that cycle just kind of kept repeating itself for like the first 2/3 of the race. But I stuck with it because I just knew we were pretty limited on tires, and I just really felt that saving tires was going to pay off at the end, and it almost did there. I mean, of everyone on my strategy, if it went green, I mean, we definitely had them. So shout out to Connor Horn for helping me on the strategy there. And I was kind of worried that some guys were going to try to make it on one last stop, but tires were such a big difference. I thought it was still the way to go to pit anyway. And man, it was going to be down to the wire in that last corner there. I'm telling myself that I wasn't going to catch him anyway if it stayed green, just to maybe keep my sanity. I don't know if that's true or not, but I mean, it was going to be a super close finish if it stayed green there. It was definitely going to be exciting. But yeah, then we got that caution, and of course, Colin's just losing his mind, flipping out because he thinks that he had the race won, and the whole time I'm sitting there saying to my team, I'm like, he's gonna win anyway. He's gonna put on. He's one of the only people who has an extra set of tires since he stayed out there. He's gonna put on a set, and he's gonna drive from like 15th in 2 laps and win it. And sure enough, that's what happened. But I really thought I had it on the last lap, middle of 1 and 2. I'm looking back, I don't even see him, so I'm like, man, he got held up. I got this. and then he just came like a rocket ship through the middle and was just coming with such a run down the back. And at that point, I kind of knew there was nothing I could do. I thought about, I ran him up the track as much as I could within reason. Of course, for a championship 4 berth, I thought about walling him there, but if it was a non-playoff driver, no offense to Corey Heim, I love racing Corey. If it was someone like him, like I probably would have done it because he's not racing for what we're racing for. But I just couldn't do that to Colin. Like I said, he probably was going to have that win there anyway. But man, that's tough. If I didn't have such good luck last season and have things go my way and win the championship, then I'd probably be a little bit more distraught. But yeah, it's definitely a little bit. It stings a little bit because there's a lot in the line this year. We've got a lot of money. We've got a simulator and stuff that since the league's grown, we didn't really have for last season. But just congrats to Colin. I'm glad he didn't. If he was going to win anyway, if it went green, I'm glad he didn't just get totally screwed there. Kind of a shame that caution came out. But big shout out, of course, to Atlas Hair Products again. Code MNR, save 20% free shipping. AtlasHair.com. Really wish I could have got them into the Final Four, but just wasn't meant to be. That's racing.
Of course, obviously a tough break there, and it turns 3 and 4. But I want to talk about the transition from the beginning of the race, before we got the green flag, to this checkered. You talked with Eric Estep, our Out of the Groove pre-race host. He did a great job on that, and he talked to you, and it felt like, in a way, your response, it seemed like you didn't really quite know the full potential of you and this NASCAR Next Gen car with this combo Atlanta Motor Speedway. But it felt like ever since you got to a lap around 35 around, so we got to the mid portion of the race, it felt like your car seemed to be the outright best once you got laps in it. What changed confidence-wise from before the drop of the green to when you actually got some laps in this car under green?
I mean, that's kind of what I thought and was hoping would happen based off some practice runs we did yesterday. Like I'm one of my biggest strengths is definitely being able to save the rear tires, and I knew that was going to be huge at a track like Atlanta in a car that's hard to drive like this one. So like I was hoping that would happen, but my biggest concern was that we would just get so many cautions that tire saving wouldn't matter. And for the first half of the race, like I said, that's kind of what was happening. And I'm just like, am I really just going to sit back here in 10th and finish back here just because we can't get a long run in? So you start questioning whether or not you should push harder. But it's hard to be upset when I look back at this race and I feel like I did everything I could have done. Obviously, if I did the same strategy as Colin, then I would have won. But like you have no idea that you can't predict a caution coming out with like 2 laps to go. So that's just the random variable in racing. And I feel like I did everything I had to do, went out and executed, and it just didn't work out. But like I said, last season it did. So it's hard to be too mad about it. And sure as hell bet that I'm going to be back next year with a vengeance.
A redemption tour, I guess we'll call it here, for season number 6. I think still, Adam, a illustrious past 3 seasons ever since you had your rookie campaign back in season 3, got to the championship 4 there, you got to the championship 4 again last season, and you were that close to getting to it once more for a 3rd straight year. I think there's a lot, definitely, Adam, that has gone your way. It's been an unbelievable run that you've had, and still, even in season 5, the 1 win at Las Vegas, but even before that had a lot of consistency, so a lot of credit to give to you. I know that it's not going to be a stage appearance for the championship 4 by the time we get to the Charlotte Esports Hub 1 week from tonight, but are we still expecting to see you in Charlotte, North Carolina? And the second part of the question, what are your thoughts about Trucks at Homestead at Miami Speedway with the finale?
Man, I don't think so. I was really only planning on making the trip. It's a big trip from New Jersey, so I was probably only planning on making the trip down if I made the championship 4. So I don't think you'll see me next Monday night. But it's a really good way to end the championship. It's a good way to end the season. I wish that real life NASCAR was still ending the season at Homestead because it's, in my opinion, just the perfect track. There's so many grooves. Tire saving is going to matter, but probably not as much as definitely not as much as it did tonight. Just hope it's down to the wire, kind of like it was tonight, and just puts on a good show. And hopefully I'll be back up on that stage next season.
Well, of course, Adam, on behalf of our entire team at Podium Esports, want to thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us here after this Roasted Gems Coffee 125. I know it was a tough ending to that one, but still a great season put up here in Season 5 of the Monday Night Racing Pro Series presented by Interstate Batteries. We thank you again for all of the crazy runs throughout this season, and we hope to see you rip up the track at Homestead Miami Speedway with the trucks 1 week from tonight. Thank you again for taking the time to join us.
Thank you, Kenneth.
So that is Adam Cabot in the 17. and it's hard to really process the feeling of losing in the last corner, turns 3 and 4. He was one of the deficits on that end, but one of the gainers was the driver who spun to bring out that most recent caution before the race ended. Garrett Smithley in the 15. He's caught up with our very own Jacob Hitz.
And obviously, a lot of eyeballs on that spin with 2 laps to go. Garrett, what happened?
5 car dove bomb me, messed up my entry. I got on the apron, and I was trying to nurse the tires home. I was going half throttle the last, 20 laps to get to the end on fuel, and tires were completely shot. And by the time I got back on the track, I was already way sideways, and just unfortunate. I know a lot of people think something different happened, but if I was going to intentionally spin, I'll just go ahead and say it. If I was going to intentionally spin, I would have done it 10 laps ago, and I would have won the race because I had an extra set of tires over everybody else. So again, everybody out there can speculate all they want. I know what happened. If I was going to intentionally spin, I would have done it a long time before that, for sure.
And I do want to ask you about that. You completely cut out a pit stop there. You almost cut 2 pit stops out if that caution didn't come with 2 laps to go. This strategy, bold to say the least. Nobody else really looked into doing that other than maybe Justin Malillo.
Yeah, just the way the race was going, knowing that we only had 4 sets laying, I knew that people were burning up their tires early, and I said, you know what? I think that I might have had a shot to win, but we definitely weren't the best car, so I needed to do something different. It was a situation where, I'm going for wins. I'm not in this championship. We had a new sponsor the last 2 weeks, and then we'll have back next week, Wits Racing and Radius, and they're going to be on my real late model, pro late model this weekend at Motor Mile. So excited to have them on board. But we're just trying to get them TV time and get wins for them, and we're trophy hunting here. So we got one more race. This has been our absolute worst season in MNR since I've started. So we're trying to get trophies. We've had such bad luck, and we tried to turn it around this week, but almost had it. Still happy with the 3rd place finish, and just shout out to the Lean Stream. They're huge supporters of me, and just excited to finish 3rd, really.
Before we let you go, I want to talk about what you announced right before we got the green flag, the fact that you're going late model racing this weekend.
Yeah, it's so cool to have this platform and to be live streaming and to be on sim racing, and really this sponsorship came out because of sim racing. Radius Bob and Wits Racing have been huge supporters of the sim racing community for a long time. I've run their cars several times in a lot of big iRacing events, and this is the first time we're taking them to the real racetrack. So I'm super excited to have them on board. Going to the Cars Tour race, really competitive. I know there's a lot of good drivers in there. Only ran probably 5 late model races in my life, so haven't really had much of a chance. So we're gonna go have some fun short track racing, and so it should be fun. And looking forward to the championship week next week. And good luck to the top 4 drivers that are going for a championship.
Congratulations on that top 3 tonight, Garrett, and best of luck to you next week when we go to Homestead to wrap up the season, and as well this weekend with the Car Store Pro Late Models.
Appreciate it.
That's Garrett Smithley finishing P3 tonight here from Hot Atlanta Motor Speedway. Eric Estep is with our remaining 3 drivers that will be on the big stage a week from tonight. Here he is now with your point leader currently, James Bickford.
Yeah, but the points do reset now, effectively. But James is started on pole, finished top 5. Has the excitement set in, or is it more just relief at this point that you'll be racing for a championship in 1 week?
Honestly, I'm just focused on the next. I'm super excited to be on the stage in the home venue, the Carolina eSports Hub. So I'm glad we were able to get to the top 4 and have a little home field advantage there up on stage. But it was a fantastic race from beginning to end for us. Obviously, we were playing the conservative strategy, and I was sweating bullets that maybe we went too conservative, seeing Colin Fern and Garrett at the end when that caution came out. So at the end of the day, it paid off, and we're in the final 4.
Yeah, tell me about how you kind of manage those strategies. We saw everyone kind of choosing when to kind of lay off and conserve tires, trying to guess when we would get a long run. We had a lot of short runs early on. How did your strategy change at all throughout this race, or were you kind of on the same plan from start to finish?
Obviously, we had conversations before every pit stop. Me and Matt Scott, we were discussing, should we save a set of tires or not? And at the end of the day, we wanted track position, and we just took the conservative route of following what other people did, which usually isn't how you win a race. Fortunately, we had speed that kept us up in the front throughout the entire time. But strategy was just do what the person in front of us did, or just take the conservative path and take tires instead of no tires. So that left us without a spare set at the end, and it brought us to a top 5 and got us in the final 4. So couldn't thank Matt Scott enough for helping out. I had my dad, Tom Bickford. He was in the Discord helping me out as well. So it was an awesome time, and I'm glad we made it.
Great stuff. Yes, of course. We'll see you on stage at the Carolina Esports Hub in 1 week. Trucks at Miami. You said you're already looking forward to that race. Do you already have strategies, potential ideas flowing through your mind right now?
I mean, we'll see. I haven't even run a single lap, and I'm flying to Chicago tomorrow, so hopefully I get some laps in maybe tonight or some other time. But fortunately, I don't have a bed sitting behind me here that isn't made like Garrett Smithley's. I get this nice black wall that we put up. So yeah, we're looking good and excited for the Homestead trucks. It's gonna be awesome.
Moving on up. Yeah, you won't be in a bedroom next weekend. You will be on stage in Charlotte. Congratulations, James Bickford, advancing to the Championship 4 here in Season 5. And next up, we're going to keep on moving. Next, we have Anthony Alfredo. He joins us live, another Championship 4 contender. Anthony, you snuck into the top 5 at the end there, finished 4th. I asked James Bickford the same question. Are you already looking ahead to next weekend, or are you just kind of the relief setting in that you are moving on to the championship race?
Oh, I'm definitely excited about it. It surprised me because I came into this race and was pretty calm and figured it was pretty much an easy in as long as we had a top 10, but it got so crazy there at the end because there was 2 drivers in a must-win running first and second, and I was actually out during that long green flag run, so I had to dig hard at the end to pass a couple cars, and we ended up pointing ourselves back in right when that caution came out. So at that point, I was just worried about getting wrecked on the restart, but we made it in. We had a solid finish, and I really wanted to win this race and have that momentum for next week, but it's no big deal. We big picture is we're heading on to the Final 4, and I'm excited to have another shot at it because last time I was in the Final 4, I was leading that championship race by about half a track when my computer broke. So I'm looking for redemption this time around.
Absolutely. Well, you mentioned it a second ago. Yeah, that final segment, we were watching the battle between you and David Shieldhouse. I know on that last set of green flag stops seemed to pit just a couple laps later than some of the leaders. How big of an advantage was that? Was that a conscious strategy call? And how big of a play do you think that mattered? Just a couple laps at Old Atlanta.
It was weird. I was in that box where if I stepped too far out and ran too long, I probably would have hurt myself, and if it went green, I wouldn't have made it in. I wouldn't have passed the cars I needed to pass. But if I short pit like everyone else, I really wouldn't have done anything for myself either. So I felt like I had a small tire advantage at the end. I ran really hard to catch him. I was running qualifying laps the last 15 laps in a row, so I didn't really have enough to get around Adam on that last restart. Not that it mattered because there was 2 drivers with fresh tires that came up through there. So I do think it put me in a more comfortable spot in that restart because I wasn't on equal tires as everyone else. I had a pretty big advantage and got around all but one of the playoff guys that I was racing. So that was definitely sketchy there. I was struggling to come up with a strategy on the fly. I knew I wanted to run longer than everyone else. I just didn't know how long to run because eventually you can kind of shoot yourself in the foot and go too long when it comes down to a run like that. But I'm glad to see it work out for Colin too, because I thought about trying to save fuel and make it to the end and just win the race, but there was no reason doing something so risky because we weren't in a must-win. But it looked like it still ended up being the right call because with all the cars that were a lap down, when he came and put his tires on, he only had to restart 11th or something like that. So it was pretty easy to get back up there and win. But all in all, looking forward to next week. It was fun to have Sparko on the car for this race and get a good run for them. And eyes on the championship trophy now next week. I'm looking forward to getting in a SimSeat driving simulator on stage in front of a lot of people and hopefully coming home with the chip.
Absolutely. In person, going to be fantastic for sure. Congratulations, Anthony, on making it to the Championship 4. We'll be watching next week.
Thank you.
Awesome stuff. That's Anthony Alfredo. He will be contending for the Season 5 title next week. We have just one more Championship 4 driver to talk to, and that is Presley Sora, who entered today plus 15. He had the biggest points cushion, albeit still not a huge one when you had two guys up front at the end contending for that for a win, trying to win in their way in. But Presley, you've made it to the Championship 4. What's going through your mind right now? You've had a little bit of time to sit on it and think about it.
Well, first off, I want to thank my sponsors, Club Jerky, Maconi Setup Shop, 213simware.com, Runnings Racing's Design, and Interstate Batteries, Next Level Racing for all that they do for Monday Night Racing. But I can't believe it. I still don't believe that I'm going down there next week, but I know I am. So I couldn't believe the caution coming out with 1 lap to go. The last 10 laps, I was saying, please, no caution, just anything but a yellow. And I'm coming through 3 and 4, coming to the white flag, and I look up in the chat and it says caution. I couldn't believe it. And then I thought we were going to go full demo derby status on the final green-white checkered, and we didn't. We kept it clean, thankfully, and I made it in.
I was going to ask you your mindset on that final restart, because you're there, you're up in the front, but that's a hornet's nest. You know there's a lot of hungry drivers, some with fresher tires behind you. So how were you able to position yourself in those closing laps to come home with the top 10?
Yeah, I didn't really want to start on the bottom, and I knew Fern on the tires, he was going to be hauling coming up through there. I was pretty confident he was going to win. It was actually a little closer than I thought, but the tires make so much of a difference here. Once he had that extra set on us, we had nothing for him, regardless of if it was 2 laps, 5 laps, whatever it was. But I was just trying to keep it clean on that final green-white checkered. I knew if I just stayed straight and didn't get involved in anything, kept out of trouble, if I just brought home a solid finish, I had enough of a buffer and points that I was going to be good. So I just kept it clean coming to the checkered and locked myself in.
I kept it more than just clean, got that 7th place finish. Moving on to the championship next week. Trucks at Homestead, Miami. First impressions, I know it's a lot to take in. You're going to Charlotte, you'll be on stage, but how do you like your chances with that car and track combination?
Well, it's going to be really fun, and I think everyone's going to be so close with those things. The trucks at 1.5 miles are just so even, and we run fixed setup, so I think there's not going to be any gap between any of us, especially the Championship 4. I'm confident myself that I'm going to go out and win next week, but it's going to be very close. So, and anything can happen, of course. But I think if I just run my race next week, I should be in good shape.
Well, we're looking forward to watching. Should be a fantastic show. Congratulations, Presley, on going to the Championship 4. Can't wait to see you out there next week.
Yep, and thank you. I also forgot to shout out Crypto Auto Sport, my team in here, and Highside Motorsports, my other iRacing team. But yeah, and I'm a rookie in the series. I don't think many people watching know that. And I think even some of the drivers have forgotten. But I'm a rookie in the Championship 4. So I'm going to go out and win it and try to make a name for myself.
Awesome stuff. That's what this series is all about. Congratulations, Presley Sora, making it to the Championship 4 alongside Anthony Alfredo, James Bickford, and tonight's winner, Colin Fern. Blake, back to you guys. This was a fantastic race with a dramatic finish.
It was a long post-race show, and for good reason, as you can see right there on your screen. The 4 drivers that will be competing next Monday night, the Charlotte eSports Hub, home of the Charlotte Phoenix. Presley Sora, James Bickford, Anthony Alfredo, and Colin Fern, your 4 championship competitors, of which only one in Colin Fern competed last year. You had, guys, I can't believe, into the round of 7, we had all 4 championship competitors from last year, and yet after tonight, only one is still going to be competing for a championship. That whole last 20 laps was just unbelievable.
It is just how fast, Blake, in a playoff format, how things can change in a matter of notice, where you feel like at one point you're comfortable, you're ready to be in. At one point we talked about Schildhouse being comfortable running up front all race long, and then the things happen in the final laps. He gets passed by Cabot. It looks like he's going to get that ripped out of his hands, and the caution comes out. He gets that hope, and then Colin Fern comes out of absolutely nowhere to get it. It's just how quickly things can change, how fast that tide can undulate to the right or wrong way depending on where you are in that playoff fight. And again, that's what makes it so exciting. What's exciting is these guys in the championship 4. Colin Fern, he's fresh off the heels of this win. He's going to have so much momentum. It's the second straight championship 4 appearance in his first 2 seasons of MNR. Presley Sora becoming the second rookie in the last 3 seasons to go to their championship 4 in their very first season. Anthony Alfredo, James Bigford, they're seasoned veterans in MNR. So many storylines you could bring into this championship 4. And then add in the fact that we're going to Homestead Miami Speedway, my favorite track, my home track, and that's going to be in person at the Charlotte Esports Hub. It is going to be a fantastic culmination. We had one just here tonight from Atlanta. It's going to be so much better when somebody hoists the Bob Jenkins Memorial Trophy at the end of August 29th.
Well, and that's one thing, Jacob, that Kenneth was just mentioning, all those factors that go in. The one additional factor is that it's live, it's in front of an audience, and for both the real racers and the sim racers. I mean, you have Anthony Alfredo, who's a part of this championship 4. He's been racing the NASCAR Xfinity Series, the NASCAR Cup Series. He has a lot of experience, but there is nothing like racing in front of a crowd with a setup that you may or may not be familiar with. There's so much that goes into this championship 4 that is a totally different element for all of these competitors.
And it's going to be big because all 4 guys are going to be on identical rigs for the most part. So they're going to be getting used to the same equipment. It's going to be a learning curve for those guys. When they go in for practice, they're definitely going to be practicing. You may not have guys that really kind of grind it out in that hour that we get before we get on the air. But these guys are going to be going at it from that 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock hour, trying to get every lap in that they can. Homestead is not an easy racetrack, especially not in the trucks. Going to be very fun to watch those guys kind of adjust throughout the race. They may get better as time goes on. And if I'm Colin Fern, only thing I'm thinking going into next week, keep Shane Van Gisbergen away from me, especially on that opening lap. It could get very hairy trying to funnel down into turn number 1.
I'm sure he's hoping that SPG's not able to make it out, of course, in reference to lap 1 of the championship race last year that pretty much ended Colin Fern's hopes at a title. But again, if you want to be there next Monday night in Charlotte, you can go to MondayNightRacing.net. There's a link that says MNR Live Championship on the taskbar. Click that. It'll show you all the information about what's going on, tickets that you can buy, and of course, all the information on your championship 4 competitors and everything going on with Monday Night Racing. So again, that is MondayNightRacing.net if you want to be there live and in person next Monday night. So for the last time, at least at our own setups, we'll say goodbye for Ford Martin and Paul Sutton in Monday Night Racing, Josh Mendoza in Race Control, Gary Sexton and John Theodore at Podium eSports. For our camera builder tonight, Gary Sexton, our overlay builder, Michael Hall, Cameron Albanon on our social media team tonight, and for the crew on tonight's broadcast, of course, our wonderful pre-race show host and Eric Eastep, our producer Ryan Bauer, my colleagues in the broadcast booth, Kenneth Bueno and Jacob Hitz. My name is Blake McCandless, saying so long tonight from the Atlanta Motor Speedway, where Colin Fern, the winner of the Roasted Gems Coffee 125, and he, along with 3 others, will be chasing a championship next Monday night.